The Texas National Guard has raised the Gonzalez flag amid the fight with the feds and Joe Biden. And we're all really excited for it. But I don't know if that actually means anything. But it is the most fun news that we have. It's been a pretty slow news day. The Gonzalez flag, for those that don't know, is the come and take it flag with the artillery on it. And the story is amazing. We talked about it a few nights ago, considering the artillery they were defending, the single cannon, was relatively small. But they were so defensive of their right to keep it. They said, come and take it. They were ordered to give it up. They said, no. We got a convoy headed down to Texas, and there are concerns that this could cause escalation. James Lindsay has been saying everybody should leave. Don't do this. Don't give an opportunity for a false flag. But I think the reality is probably a whole lot of nothing will happen. But we do have breaking news as it pertains to the migrant crisis. A video was just published that appears to show military in some fashion guarding illegal immigrants at the Atlanta airport. And when a state rep was caught filming, they shut him down and tried taking his phone from him. Something weird is going on. So we'll talk about that. We got other big news. James O'Keefe in one of his best exposés ever. Apparently he went on a date with a guy and it was like a Clark Kent thing. He put on glasses and then he starts asking this guy all this stuff about what's going on in the White House. This is an executive, He's an employee in the executive office of the White House in cybersecurity who explains they want to replace Kamala Harris. They don't know how to do it. They know Joe Biden's in mental decline. And they're stuck. There's a lot more that came out in this report, but the best is probably when James O'Keefe takes his glasses off and says, why are you having a meeting with James O'Keefe if you're working in cybersecurity? And the guy's just like dumbfounded. I love it. It's like, you didn't know that was James because he was wearing glasses? And the guy's like, oh yeah, I've heard of you. Oh, wow. That's an amazing story. So we'll get into all that stuff. But before we do, my friends, you know it. We are shouting out factsrap.com. That's FACTS rap.com. This is Tom McDonald and Ben Shapiro's song. The media is losing it. They are on track for high rankings in the Billboard Hot 100. This is not a promo spot or a sponsored spot. I am doing this because I am friends with these guys. And I also would love to get revenge on these woke industries and force our way in there. If anybody deserves to break through, it's Tom McDonald. He teamed up with Ben Shapiro. They're generating a bunch of buzz, and they are competing for the top spot with Megan Thee Stallion and Nicki Minaj. And it looks like they may win. However, Tom pointed out in a new video just how the music industry cheats and is fake, and the corporate press is trying to downplay what they're doing. The reason I tell you this story is more than just, haha, it's really funny that Tom McDonald got a song with Ben Shapiro. We're going to break down how the industry is fake. Well, I want to talk to you guys about how they trick people into thinking these demonic music artists who are telling your kids to be degenerates, they're not actually popular. They are lying. It's a dirty trick. And what we're seeing now with Tom and Ben is actually exposing that because so many people are buying this song. But I'm going to save that for a segment because we do have an update. Washington Post wrote about it, but facts, FACTSrap.com. Also go to castbrew.com. Buy our coffee if you want to support our work directly. Alex Stein's Primetime Grind, 2 times caffeine, drink responsibly, of course. Cast Brew, it's the best coffee you'll ever had. Everybody thinks Appalachian Nights is the best. We're currently sold out of the best, but whole bean is still available. And you can join the Cast Brew Coffee Club if you want to get a discount on multiple bags every single month. And also head over to timcast.com, click join us, so you can hang out in the members only uncensored show. Check out our documentaries. I got a couple. Working on more, but it's very, very difficult. Let me just tell you this, guys. We've got a lot of members. We don't have enough to expand beyond where we're at. So we're working on it. But if you sign up, what we will do with your membership at $10 a month is we are going to invest in new shows, new culture, documentaries. We're working on a morning show with multiple, I would say like mid-20s to early 40s conservative women that it was asked of me by someone who works here. Can we make a show that will be for moms, but sane? Because, The View is like insane. And so we want to do things like this. We want to have an impact on culture. In order to do it, you got to join up. Become a member at timcast.com. You'll get access to our Discord server. You can call into the members only after show and ask us and our guests questions. So please support our work at timcast.com. Smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight is Tayler Hansen.
Thanks for having me.
Who are you? What do you do?
I am Tayler Hansen. I'm a field reporter and journalist with Tenet Media. And according to DHS and TSA, I was an alleged domestic terrorist for 2 years.
That's crazy, dude.
That's fun.
They were stalking you on these planes.
Yep.
But you've covered a lot of the border crisis stuff.
Yes.
So this should be interesting, especially as we talk about what's going on with these quote unquote militia groups that are going down to the border. So it should be fun. Thanks for hanging out. We got Hannah Claire Brimlow.
Hey, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for Scanner News. That's scnr.com. I'm happy to be back this week. Brett's here as well.
Yes, hello guys. I am Brett Dasovic. I'm the host of Pop Culture Crisis right here on YouTube. Me and Mary Morgan do that show 5 days a week. You should tune in at 3 p.m. and watch.
And I am Serge.com. Always a pleasure to have you here, Taylor, as always. I'm excited for the show. Let's get to it, Tim.
Here's the big news of the day. I think it's fair to say there's probably other news, but I'll be real. Very slow news day. That's true. But this was the most fun story. Texas National Guard flies "Come and Take It" flag as border tensions grow. This is it. Take a look at this. Do you guys know what the Gonzales flag is? They have this picture. What I love about it is the flag shows, it's kind of hard to see on the screen. It shows artillery, a single star, and it says "Come and Take It." And it was basically, in Texas, these guys had a cannon, and there was some, military officer, I think it was Mexican, and he was like, "You're going to surrender that cannon to me." And they made that flag and said, "Come and take it." And it's just this little artillery. It's not very big, and it's just one. But this symbol that was made that day it's powerful. And right now, there's concerns that Joe Biden will make moves to federalize the National Guard. Abbott says nationalizing Texas National Guard would be a severe Biden political blunder. But we don't know exactly what's going to happen. I think a lot of people, the smart move on Biden's part is to slow down and back off and let things simmer down. Otherwise, if he makes a move, it can escalate quickly out of his control. But of course, because that happens, everybody seems to think nothing will happen. I don't know that that's the case, considering all the other news that we've been seeing and the fact that even with the Texas National Guard putting up the razor wire, this has not stopped. The bill that's being proposed where Joe Biden's like, "I've done everything I can. You got to give me the power." The bill they're proposing would give Joe Biden 5,000 criminal aliens. I'm not talking about migrants or asylees or whatever. 5,000 criminal aliens every day would be allowed to cross. That's the deal. Joe Biden, basically, I got to give it to him. He must have read The Art of the Deal, read some Donald Trump. The big ask. Joe Biden allows wave after wave of criminal migrant to come in this country and then says, how about we stop it at 5,000? And that's a deal. Brutal. I don't know where this goes, Texas National Guard. I know you've been down there quite a bit and you've seen some of this. So I'm curious your thoughts, Taylor.
Yeah, well, I mean, just in Shelby Park and in Eagle Pass in specific, I mean, it is cleaned up. It is day and night difference. I mean, I was down there, I would say, at the beginning of January. And I mean, I did a little tour with National Guard. They were nice enough to let me in and actually go and see the razor wire. And, they kind of gave me the ins of how many crossings had actually been stopped. On average, they were averaging anywhere, when I was down there, it was 6 to 4 migrants a day compared to, I was there the month prior.
6 to 4,000?
No, 6 to 4. That's it.
Wait.
With National Guard in Shelby Park, in one of the regions in the Del Rio sector that used to be one of the most popular. And I mean, they were shattering records every single month.
It was like 10,000 per day.
Yeah, well, in the month before that, if you guys saw the kind of makeup apprehension site where you had thousands, filling in every single 10 minutes as one line is cleared, another line fills. That's how much of a difference that it has made in that one sector. So now you're seeing rises in the Arizona sectors, and migrants are making their way over there, or 15 miles, upland, and now they're crossing in that area. But it's still not nearly as much. So it is working.
This is the challenge of separate states, sovereign states. The Biden administration, as a federal agency, just wants to bring in criminal aliens. So when Texas says we're going to push back, all the Biden administration has to do is, well, I shouldn't say the Biden administration, but whoever is communicating with the cartels to let them know how to operate, send them to Arizona. I'm sure they got CBP down there that's willing to facilitate the human smugglers operations. And if anybody who lives there tries to defend their property, we'll put them in prison. Right. That seems to be the case.
And this wasn't the case under Doug Ducey, who was really supportive of Abbott. He also bussed people out of state. It's apparent to me how obvious the changes in our state leadership are to people in other countries, right? We know people pay attention to the America's presidential elections, but I think the turnover from a Republican governor to a Democratic governor immediately opened up Arizona in a way that became apparent to the international community that's looking to perforate the border.
Yeah, well, in Arizona is an absolute mess right now. If you look at like Ali Bradley or any of the reporters of the News Nation that are down there, they did a really good job at covering it. And now you're seeing numbers spike in that area once again, while the Del Rio sector is drastically dropping. And, there's a big difference between those two sectors, the kinds of migrants that you get through. You get a lot of Chinese nationals coming through in the Arizona sectors. They're treated a lot differently in Tapachula, which is kind of the conglomeration grounds in Mexico where, they're kind of sent up. I mean, they have full-blown hotels and, routes and guides for these Chinese people because they have more money. So then they're guided into over in, the Tijuana area, and they're treated, with respect. They don't really have to go through the cartels, but the Venezuelans, the Hondurans, those types that you're seeing come through Eagle Pass consistently, they're oftentimes being traded from cartel to cartel every single step of the way.
When you were down there before the National Guard shut everything down, right?
Yep, and then afterwards as well.
So explain like just what it looks like when CBP's in charge.
When CBP is in charge, it's an absolute mess. I mean, it is migrants coming in at all times of the day, all times of the night. Most of the biggest influxes you see is anywhere between like 5 to 9 a.m. in the morning. That's really when you see them get hit hard with the big caravans that cross over. You'll have an NGO. Last time I was in Mexico, I like to report from the Mexico side because I feel that's kind of where the story actually is. You can follow the caravans over, and the NGOs, they're located in Mexico. They'll have, 2 double wide, basically barn doors that they have anywhere between a few hundred to 1,000 migrants in that are ready to go that morning. And then they'll walk them down to the river, the Coyote will, if they have one. And then they'll cross them into the Rio Grande, and then they'll be put in that makeshift apprehension site. At least that's how it was
Criminal
last
aliens.
month. Yes.
You accidentally said migrant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have tremendous respect for migrants who come to the United States, believe in the American dream, apply at the appropriate border crossing, and say thank you for everything you've every opportunity you've afforded me. I hope that the paperwork moves through and I can come to your country.
Well, and none of them are actually going through the checkpoints, and
Of
that's
course.
for a reason.
Well, no. Migrants are. Criminal aliens are not.
Yep.
And that's the legal term. I think shout out James Lindsay. He had this post where he said, "Do not use the leftist language. It is a political agenda." So when we are specifically referring to individuals who are committing crimes against the United States and against Texas, and they're being assisted by the Biden administration, to which the Texas governor has called out the Biden administration for doing, those are the criminal aliens. And I would not want to besmirch the good name of migrants, because I like migrants. I like the people who respect this country. It doesn't mean they get to come in, doesn't mean they get to move here, but sometimes they do. And through the appropriate means that's beneficial to the economy, beneficial to the communities. What's going on with the southern border and CBP and Biden is the antithesis. It is destructive. It is chaos. The crazy thing to me is, as you described, like these NGOs bringing these big caravans, what's their goal? Just sowing chaos and hurting these people?
Basically, every single step of the way. I mean, they get paid every single step of the way. A lot of the NGOs that operate in Mexico are also operating in America. So, or they're working together in some fashion or some capacity. So you'll have them cross, and then immediately after they're done being processed, the NGO will step in, which, in Eagle Pass and all these other border towns, they quite literally have buildings there. And then they start facilitating these migrants. And then, the one in San Antonio that I was at last month, or at the beginning of January, where San Antonio PD was essentially running private security, facilitating the human smuggling of these illegals. They quite literally put them in this area for an X amount of time. And then they say, hey, if you can afford your own ticket, or they kind of phrase it in a little more aggressive manner, they try and get these illegals to buy their own tickets. And then if they aren't willing to buy their own tickets after a certain amount of time, or they can't afford it, they'll end up saying, okay, we can pay half. And then if they still can't afford it, they end up paying the full thing.
Who's paying it?
The NGOs.
Wow. I mean, there should be some kind of criminal investigation charges against the organizations for facilitating illegal immigration. I mean, it's laughable. CBP, the only reason the cartels and the smugglers are able to operate is because CBP was like, we got you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and that's the same thing with the San Antonio PD running security for this facility. Yeah. They are essentially taking cartel money, because cartels will pay these NGOs because they're doing their dirty work and their groundwork for them. And then it's washed through San Antonio, the city of San Antonio, essentially, and then given to these officers at a higher rate than they're already being paid, which San Antonio PD, they're already getting paid good money, but they're still willing to go and do this in uniform and actually guard these migrant facilities and essentially threaten you with arrest if you keep asking them questions, as they did with me.
Feels like there is a boa constrictor on the neck of this country, slowly just squeezing and squeezing. And man, the challenge is discipline. I feel like the best thing we can do is hope that by voting for Donald Trump, he gets in and starts to reverse course. And there's no guarantees that happens, but that is the best path forward we have right now. And that being said, Greg Abbott seems to have done a lot to abate this, but now we need Arizona and New Mexico to do the same. New Mexico won't. New Mexico will always just say, we're an open door. They're Democrat run. They're trying to ban guns. They're doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff.
Yeah, New Mexico, Arizona, California, they're not going to do anything. And I think that's one of the reasons Abbott taking such a strong stance was a rallying cry. We saw so many, over 25 states said, we're with you, we're going to support you. And they aren't all necessarily directly attached to the border, but they feel the burdens of illegal immigration as well. We know that especially the Biden administration has moved people who come illegally throughout the country. And this becomes a nationwide problem. I think for a long time it was marketed as, well, it's just Texas's problem. It's just in the border communities. And, that frustration really lit a fuse. And Operation Lone Star, Abbott's initiative to close the border and to add more state power behind efforts to restrict illegal immigration has been going on since 2021. I mean, he launched it alongside the Biden administration, and they're really seeing this come to a head after 4 years.
Well, and you see a lot of those states that are actually signing on are actually receiving an influx of illegal migrants too, or I should say criminal aliens, as Tim states it.
Well, that's the
legal term of it. Right. And I mean, even Utah. I remember when I was flying back from my San Antonio and last Eagle Pass trip, I'm looking at these illegals pass. I mean, these boarding passes that are makeshift, and they're completely different most of the time than most other boarding passes. And I'm looking through some, and I look at my gate, and I see 6 right there, and I was like, there's no way they're coming to Utah out of all places. Yeah. And lo and behold, they're coming to Utah.
They're in Chicago. They're being flown on private jets. I mean, it's just absolutely nuts to think. You out there, listen, hardworking American. You lived your whole life. You followed the rules. You didn't break any laws. You got a job. You went to school. You got married. You had kids. And you see on Instagram and you see in the news, these people getting to fly on these private jets. And you think, what did I have to do differently in my life to be able to fly in a private jet? Apparently, you need to be born in a third world country and then illegally enter the United States, because they're putting these people on large private jets, flying them through private jet terminals to big cities, giving them hotel rooms, cell phones, and debit cards with thousands of dollars in cash.
Well, and they get expedited security too. So that's
absolutely.
A fun part of it all.
Well, that's another big story we have. Let's take a look at this from Daily Caller. Check this one out. Exclusive. Video appears to show migrants tucked away in hidden room under military guard at major U.S. airport. We actually have the video here from Daily Caller. I don't know if everyone, it's real. I don't even know if you can see it because of the way they needed to rotate this.
Yeah, they should have just.
Why did the Daily Caller rotate the video?
They were busy. It was breaking.
So in this video, I'm going to lower the volume. There's a man. It's up here at the top. You can see a guy in some kind of military uniform. I don't know if he's National Guard or if he's Army or what he might be. But it's hard to see because they also put their watermark over it. Yeah, so I don't know how to show it to you any better, those that are watching. But apparently, this was filmed by a state senator. Let me get the details on this. State Senator Colton Moore, a Republican, vice chairman of the Georgia Freedom Caucus, took the video. Apparently, when he tried to film directly, this guy in uniform went up to him and told him he was done, shut him down, tried to take his phone from him. So that would indicate, I know they're trying to be careful here, saying appears to show migrants under military guard. Fair point, because we don't know if this guy's actually in the. We don't know who this guy is. But I think you can say it does show it. Now the question is, who is this guy? Was he given direct orders to protect illegal immigrants, criminal aliens? Or is he acting of his own volition? Is he working private? We don't know what's going on. But this is just one grain of sand in the, if you knew actually how bad things were. Like, look, for years we've known the Biden administration was smuggling children. Criminal, illegal, I should say, for the kids, they're brought here by their parents. I guess criminal alien applies, I'm not entirely sure. But undocumented children brought here by cartels, smugglers, and their parents are then put on planes by the Biden administration and flown to Tennessee, to New York, to other cities and states in the middle of the night. It's insane to me that the Biden administration's been doing this for years.
Do you know what airport this is in? Do they say
Atlanta.
that? So it's an Atlanta airport.
I believe this.
Hartsfield, I think.
Is it? Yeah, Atlanta's
Okay.
Hartsfield-Jackson
It looks like I
International
need
Airport.
to take a visit to Atlanta. I mean, kudos to the senator for filming this, but he should have walked up to the National Guard or whoever it was and said, What are you doing here? Why are you guarding this? In what capacity are you working?
If he was working independently, then who would have been funding him? NGOs?
Well, and why is he wearing his uniform?
Yeah, you would not be. You would be against policy, right, to wear a uniform.
Well, at least with the police departments, they have to get approval through the city and through their police chief. I'm not sure how it works in the military.
It's got to be National Guard.
Yeah, it doesn't seem right though.
Because of posse comitatus, armed forces can't be used for domestic law enforcement unless. There are some exceptions. I think the Insurrection Act is one. So I'm assuming it's a National Guardsman in Georgia who's been sent for some reason. But I got to tell you, like, I'm going to say this. If this is true, that these are criminal aliens, this state senator said a whistleblower came to him and told him this was going on. If that is a room of criminal aliens being trafficked, being smuggled, and that guardsman is protecting them, I want to see him in prison.
Oh, absolutely.
Lock them up.
Well, and that's the
Criminal
biggest
charges.
thing is people are so lenient with everybody that's doing this. I mean, like, I think the San Antonio PD officers that I confronted, I think they should be in prison. 100%. Why are you in an official capacity or an unofficial capacity in your uniforms, using your service weapons, using your cars, allowed to facilitate human trafficking and smuggling into America when that's illegal and it's something you should actually be investigating? It's insane. It makes absolutely no sense in my mind.
And this isn't the worst of it. It's funny that, this video comes out. This is a Daily Caller exclusive. This is Jenny Tare. And it's just like, I think we can all surmise it's much worse than we realize. James O'Keefe, for instance, exposes these buses that are driving criminal aliens. There is a massive human smuggling network to the tune of billions of dollars that's been full swing over the past couple of years under Joe Biden. And Joe Biden's in on it. I got a question. Is his family getting kickbacks?
Probably. I mean, you can't trust anything the Biden family does, in my personal opinion. Part of this is
anything.
Nothing.
He could rescue puppies, and I'd be like, "What was that?"
I honestly would think it was staged because there's no way that man can move fast enough to rescue a puppy. But the thing is, the illegal immigration under Biden has increased by basically 1 million people every year. We're cumulatively at over 6 million people. So of course this system is starting to burst at the seams. I mean, if you look at the Massachusetts at Logan Airport in Boston, there are videos of migrants just sleeping on the floor. There's nowhere for them to go. For years, Massachusetts has been saying, I mean, at least for the last 6 months, I should say, Massachusetts has been warning, we're at capacity. We don't have any place to put anyone. We need to do something. And there's sort of no answer because the federal government has refused to enforce immigration law, refused to ally itself with the states that are acting to defend themselves, and now we're all paying the consequences. I mean, it is not, obviously, I think if you enter this country illegally, you are obviously a criminal, you are doing something wrong, but I can understand that they are also suffering in the conditions that they are being housed in. No one wants to sleep on the floor at an airport indefinitely. Like, no one benefits from this system except for Joe Biden and Democrats who theoretically could maybe stash people in states and tip the census in their favor.
Even then, they're not just being stashed in airports either. I mean, we see it in Chicago O'Hare Airport too. Mm-hmm. There's a whole section of tents that are now being marked off to media after Ben Berquam went down there and basically exposed what was going on to the extent that it was going on. And they have little privacy flyers on it. Do not enter. Mm-hmm. It's essentially like they're living there. But on top of that, a lot of the times when I talk to these illegals in the airport, they have no idea where they're going, and then their pickup, I asked to see what their WhatsApp is, because that's where they do all the facilitation with the NGOs. And almost every single time, they're heading to a local community center that has basically been, I don't know if it's rented out or what's going on, but they're basically all being conglomerated and put in rec centers for who knows.
Yeah.
So they're either sleeping on the rec center floor, or they're sleeping in the airport somewhere, or they're just disappearing. So,
and even if it's not kickbacks per se, everyone knows right now that bringing in that demographic is voting block material in future elections, because the elections aren't safe either a lot of the time.
Yeah, young military age men, so great. No, I think all of this is it's interesting to me to see how much the conversation around the border and immigration has shifted over the last basically 20 years, right? I mean, there were times when this wasn't a subject that conservatives would touch at all. And now, maybe not super effectively, but at least they are willing to say, we're not doing anything until the border is a top priority. And I think that's the best thing they can do for their constituents. Any elected Republican should know that this isn't just something that we do to not encourage people to endanger themselves by crossing illegally into the country, but it's to say, I prioritize the people who put me in office. I want you guys to feel safe and feel as though the resources that your tax dollars are supposed to support go to you.
It is weird how, like, even like during the Obama administration, illegal border crossing was something that was at least they paid lip service to it, right? In some way, shape, or form. And that kind of disappeared when Trump got elected and it became such a contentious issue, kids in cages, things like that. And it's kind of become...
Well, I feel like under Obama, the narrative was people need help and it's our obligation as this powerful, wealthy nation to, help them, whatever else.
But they talked about the border fence and like it was at least paid lip service.
Well, and Obama actually built a portion of the wall as well. A lot of people don't understand that. A part of that wall actually was built in the Obama administration. Also, the cages were built in the Obama administration.
Exactly.
So that's something people don't know.
Well, no, I think they changed the name. They only became cages when Trump got elected. I think that they were migrant holding facilities until then, and then they became cages.
And now they're
migrant holding facilities again.
Well, the biggest difference between it's all about who's in office and who knows how to actually use their power and who controls the media at this point. So when Democrats are in office, it's always a humanitarian issue, and we need to save these people. We're a nation with the money to save these people and to give them the lives that they need and deserve. Allegedly. And then when Trump's in office or somebody in the GOP is in office, then, it becomes an issue of we are essentially attacking these people and denying them their basic human rights to illegally cross into our country. So
someone super chatted. This is, Latin 342, that the guy in the video is wearing a brown round, the hat, and that National Guard don't have that. It's a drill sergeant hat, so it's got to be federal. I don't know where in the video you can see that. It does look, for a brief small portion, there may be a brim off the back of his head. I don't know if you can tell if that is a full hat. I mean, for all we know, he's wearing a backwards baseball cap. I doubt it. I doubt a guy in uniform would be wearing that. But that would be interesting nonetheless. Don't know for sure.
Well, if the senator that is recording this video is watching right now, send me the details and I'll be there in a few days to ask questions.
Or he can just send you the details and say, yes, the guy was wearing a brown round and describe the patch on his arm and we can figure out if this guy's working for the federal government. It may be. It may be. Look, I mean, that would be a huge scandal, I'd imagine, if U.S. armed forces federally were facilitating this, because that might be into the area of a military coup outright.
Well, and especially with what you have going down in Shelby Pass right now. They're allowed to stop it, but they're actually not allowed to stop it according to the Biden administration. But then on one side, if this actually is somebody in the Army or the National Guard, then they're actively facilitating it while trying to nationalize the National Guard in Texas. So you have a huge, butting of heads issue right there.
I mean, this is if that is federal armed forces, I don't know what you'd call this, because, I've described what Joe Biden's been doing as a seditious conspiracy. Treason typically refers to, or more likely to refer to, acts of war and supporting enemies. Treason, being a traitor, right? What does it mean to be a traitor? You're helping the enemy. Okay, so let's say, Taylor and Hannah Claire are fighting over a slice of cake, and then I'm like, I'm here to defend you. It's your cake, and then I go behind your back and go, I'm a traitor. I betrayed you, right? That's treason. Sedition would just be like trying to destroy this country, and it seems like that's what is going on.
I love that example.
Yes, but
Not the case.
But I have to imagine perhaps it's treason. I mean, if they're working with cartels, it is treason then. Because now they're aiding and abetting an enemy that we are in active conflict with. That's nuts, man. I don't know what to say.
And the Biden administration, no matter what happens, will say, you guys are crazy. This has always been the way things are done. Or you didn't see it right. This is a right-wing conspiracy.
And the media will run cover for them. I mean, that's why I lose a lot of faith. Whenever we cover any stories like this, when you hear any stuff like this, I just don't see it reaching the average American because everyone's so in their echo chambers anyways. The people who will get this media, the ones who are searching it out, whether they're using alt media like this or they watch Fox or OAN or anything like this, they already agree with you, and the people that you would like to reach and hopefully show that this is happening, they're not going to be watching any media that actually catches on to this.
But it's still, the information must spread.
Yes.
And well, I mean, it is fascinating to hear how the migrant crisis has really shifted a lot of people in this country towards the right.
And I think it has been a slow boil issue. I think concern about the border has increased over the last 10. I mean, even under Trump, right? When Trump was saying, I want to build the wall, there were people who were excited about that because they already felt the burdens of immigration on their community, especially illegal migration. And so the idea that under Biden, it got worse on top of everything else that Biden has done, I don't know that there is enough spin out there. I think it has really punctured through mainstream narrative. I think even people who are not political start to say, yeah, why are we letting this happen?
Well, I
at the
mean,
border?
just the San Antonio video that I filmed earlier this month, it breached over, I think, 4.5 million just on Twitter off of Tenet's page, and not including the reposts on Instagram, on Twitter. I mean, on multiple different. I mean, it went viral on Facebook as well, and on multiple YouTube channels. So you're still breaking into the apparatus of normies, so to call, and which that's a good thing. Which I think, if any issue is going to change people's minds on what's going on in the country, it's going to be this issue, because you can go into any airport. I always encourage people to do this. Pretty much any airport in the country, look around for manila or clear envelopes. You're going to see illegal immigrants on your flight or on flights around you and wandering throughout the airport.
Let's jump to the story from NBC News. Some supporters of a far-right convoy headed to the Texas border are calling for civil war. We love NBC News. They are crackpot far leftists. But sure, a group that referred to itself as God's Army said it was planning 3 peaceful assemblies on Saturday. The convoy has attracted only a small number so far, like 12 people, I think. They say it's a trucker convoy of self-described patriots headed toward the U.S. border with Mexico. They've expressed violent rhetoric before. You see.
But they don't give examples.
They don't give examples.
They never give
Trust
examples.
us. It's fine.
It's like when they say that they have specific tweets that are bad, and they never actually include the tweets in the article.
Do not. This is why I agree with James Lindsay. James Lindsay said, "Do not go down there."
Oh yeah,
I agree. I think you go to Texas, stay away from the border. Let Greg Abbott do his job. We've already learned today from a field reporter who's actually been there that what Greg Abbott has set up has massively worked. You were saying before it's bedlam, and then once the National Guard comes in, now it's 4 to 6,
which is an insane contrast.
Single digits from 10,000. I think was 10,000 the whole border though. Or was
so it's in certain they break it up into sectors. When I was down there, they were breaking records every single month. So you had thousands coming through. It wasn't like 10,000 all at once. You never see any crossings like that, but you do see thousands per day sometimes.
And as soon as the National Guard of Texas takes over, it has mostly solved the problem. If people show up and get in the way, you're getting in the way of the guys winning. It's like, nah, don't do that. Don't do that. Especially because it looks like NBC is trying to prime normies to expect violence and calls for civil war. So do not give them an opportunity to false flag.
And almost likely be down there covering whatever this turns into. But I don't really see it going very far. I mean, I saw a Fox News hit the other day where they said 700,000 vehicles were on their way, which I don't know where they came up with that number.
I think
I've been in contact with people in the convoy. It isn't happening. That's not how big they are. Yeah, you have a few thousand people heading down, but there's also 3 different endpoints. So they're going to be split up between 3 different endpoints in different sectors of the border. So I'm not expecting, a huge crowd there, but articles like this is basically just priming people and prepping people for what would be a false flag. Like, what are you possibly going to do going down to the border to actually help National Guard or to help the good guys win in this case?
It was very different than the truck convoy where they're basically locking down all around Canadian Parliament and saying, we're going to make your life so difficult because you have made our life so difficult. I mean, I don't really see the same symbolic thing. I understand wanting to show your support, obviously wanting to do something. I like the idea of call to action, but ultimately anyone I know who knows about this has started being like, feds everywhere.
Yep. And a lot of people think it's going to be J6 all over again.
I feel like that about anything where there's any amount of protest now, right? Because it's not a matter of who goes, it's a matter of who controls the media narrative around what happens, right?
But I don't think the media narrative matters as much as people think. I'm well beyond this. Like, we just saw digital media implode over the past few weeks, and it's been in free fall for the past couple of years. One of the worst days ever. They got to call it like Bloody Thursday or something, how many layoffs there were this week.
Yeah, Taylor Lorenz's video of her complaining about all of it. I mean, they're laying people off during election season, election writers as well, which is insane. But I have a problem with, people not attending. Like, I understand protests. I understand the point of them. Obviously, they're not hyper effective, especially after January 6th. But everybody has essentially been neutered after January 6th. And I was there on January 6th, so I understand the ramifications.
But look, I'm not saying don't protest, don't organize, don't get together, don't have assemblies. I'm saying don't go up against CBP on federal jurisdiction during a conflict.
Well, and especially when Border Patrol has essentially sided with the National Guard in this situation. And I think the protest was planned before the Shelby Park stuff happened. But now that this is actually going on, it does lead to more potential problems or conflict. Buy it.
And I don't care. In Arizona, have you been at the Arizona border?
A few times. Not as much as Eagle Pass,
Is CBP facilitating illegal immigration?
Everywhere.
So when they come out and they're like, no, we agree with Texas. And then they go, now keep the human smuggling running in Arizona. I'm like, I don't care. That you get no free passes. Yeah, they've realized they've lost in Texas, but they still got New Mexico, they got Arizona, they got California. So they're probably looking at it like, hey, we're a bunch of human smugglers. Texas is going up against us. If we go to war with them, it could screw the whole operation up. Let's call it a loss and then shift all the cartel operations to these states so we can keep getting our kickbacks or whatever it is they're doing.
Well, and the reality is they haven't even lost in Texas at this point. Just in the Shelby Park and Eagle Pass sector, which is where most illegal migrants do come through, because 15 miles upwards, you're still having, illegal migrants cross this area. So it's still happening. You're just not seeing these massive groups, but they're still allowing people to be processed. And there are rumors that, any immigrants that are being, basically detained by National Guard are essentially being handed off to CBP. There are some videos out there. So it could still just be, it could just be for looks, which would be a shame, but I don't think it is that in this case. But they need to do this for all of Texas, the entirety of the Texas border, if they're actually serious about stopping illegal immigration completely.
I think when we see the actions of a lot of people on the right, I shouldn't say the right, but there are people who claim to be anti-establishment who in 2 seconds jumped ship and went full on establishment at a moment's notice. And I wonder what would happen if a civil war actually broke out. And I genuinely believe if in Texas something kicked off between the feds. First, people should understand this. When we had Eric Prince on the Culture War show, shout out Tenet Media, Friday mornings, 10 a.m., he said, I asked him, like, do you see in the United States similar things to these countries you've been in? And he said, the one thing I can tell you is that everybody I know who's been in these countries, they said it happened overnight. One day you went to bed, everything was fine. You woke up, the internet's out, electricity's out. You have no idea what's going on. And that's true if you're in the conflict region. What is also true is that most places, it'll be nothing. What'll happen? You're in New York, right? You'll go down to your bodega to get I don't know, maybe you want to get a turkey with American cheese and a Kaiser. Oh man.
Is that what they eat out there?
I used to, so I would get, whenever I would go to the bodegas, I'd be like turkey, white American, yellow American, mayo, Kaiser, heat it up. So good. I love me my bodegas. But you're going to be there and you're going to see the clerk who your neighbor, and you're going to be like, and he's going to be like, 13 more dead down at Eagle Pass. The fighting's getting crazy down there. And you'll go, wow, that's crazy. Anyway, you see the parade at the park? We're going to go check it out. You're going to be there later? All right, see you there. Mm-hmm. When I was I went to Ukraine in 2016 or 2017. And this is ongoing fighting happening in the Donbass region at the time, but it was limited skirmishes. Nobody in Kiev had said anything about it's whatever. And it was funny because when the fighting first kicked off, people were saying civil war. But then Donald Trump becomes president. The fighting starts simmering down. And I go there, my friend's like, we don't say civil war. It's just separatists fighting. And I'm like, fascinating. And it was completely out of sight, out of mind for everybody there. Went to a sushi restaurant, went to, I don't know what you'd call it, like fast casual with buffet style, and got cabbage and beef. It was delicious and fun.
Well, I think the U.S. is a very unique place in the aspect of it's probably going to happen just like you're saying it's happening is, you'll have different regions of the U.S. that aren't affected by it at all. It's just news to them. And a lot of people, they won't even hear about the news at all. They won't even understand that anything is going on. And then finally, you will have something crack that does affect the rest of the country. But the way that the U.S. is set up and the way that our economy and everything else is set up in this country is it's not just going to, I don't think it's just going to be an overnight thing, blackout completely, all across the United States. And it very well could be. Eric Prince is a genius. I mean, he knows his stuff for sure. But the way that we're set up here in the U.S. is very unique compared to all these other regions that experience massive attacks like this.
If you're in these border regions where fighting breaks out, you're going to wake up with no electricity.
Yep.
I mean, the federal government's going to be like, we need to cut off their energy. We need to cut off their communications. You're going to wake up and have no internet. Your phone's not going to work. And there's going to be a military insurrection act declared. There will be either Texas or federal military securing the area saying everything's under control. Go back inside your house. And you're not going to know who's who. Imagine you're in Texas near Shelby Park, Eagle Pass. You're in the city or whatever. And an APC pulls up and guys in military uniforms jump out. The average person can't tell the difference between National Guard and Army. And this guy just, they pull up, they park the trucks out. They're standing guard. You get out of your house, there's something going on, like, everything's cool, man. Name's Jim. We're just doing security because there's been some conflict stuff going on, but you got nothing to worry about. Have a nice day. Who is it? Which faction is it? You won't even know. Mm-hmm. It's like that the trailer for Civil War.
Yeah, what kind of American are you?
They don't know who he is.
Well, the most unrealistic thing about that is a Texas-California alliance
No, that's totally realistic. The movie has Texas and California as their own countries, not as two countries working together. It is not one country with two states. Texas and California, both wanting independence, would align militaristically to defend their sovereignty. They wouldn't be operating under the same governance. So that makes it makes a lot of sense.
Well,
In the movie, they were flying like one flag, though.
With two stars.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's like a NATO flag.
Yeah.
Here's my point when I was saying earlier. You've got Florida, a lot of prominent conservative voices in Florida. If civil war or some kind of hot separatist action or whatever breaks out in Texas, not saying it will, who knows? I guarantee you will get these right-wing personalities immediately saying, I'm on the side of Joe Biden. And I'm not talking about right now. It's easy to be like, Texas is in the right. But if it comes to the point where Texas is in active, full-on bullets flying conflict and federal agents are returning fire and then the Insurrection Act is declared and then Joe Biden he says, insurrection, Texas, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be real interesting because the question will be, will Florida say this is an overreach and abuse of power by the federal government? This is an escalation. What will states say? And more importantly, for those content creators with a national audience and national ties, which side will they find themselves on? That's when you really put people to the test.
Yep.
The question is, who do you think is going to win? For some people, it's who do they want to win? So there will be some media personalities, and I think the higher. I don't want to name anybody and put anybody on the spot, but there's some prominent personalities that are streaming on YouTube and Rumble that I fully imagine would be absolutely on the moral position. Whether it is morally right or wrong, whatever anyone does, they're gonna stick to their guns. There's a handful of people I would imagine outright would just be like, "Hey guys, I'm with Joe Biden on this one." It'll be interesting to see.
Well, the people that don't have convictions and can hold themselves to their morals, they're going to be the side, siding with the federal government, essentially, siding with the big man. And that's really all that it comes down to. You side with the side that's in rebellion or he instates the Insurrection Act. You are now putting a target on yourself. And not a lot of people, especially commentators, are actually willing to go that far. They don't want documents like that.
I'll give you an example. Claire Lehman. Do you remember her?
Off the top of my head, I don't think.
Whatever happened to that lady? Do you guys remember Claire Lehman?
No.
She was intellectual dark web. She runs Quillette. I believe she probably still does. She was of the, the intellectual dark web people were like post-liberal academics, thinkers, and media personalities that had been challenging woke orthodoxy and the establishment narratives. And so she's running Quillette, and Quillette was his publication that was like basically disaffected liberal, classically liberal. And then COVID happened. And Australia set up actual internment camps. Were forcefully relocating indigenous people.
I remember that story.
And she came out in full defense of it. Why? She's living under the boot of an authoritarian regime. And so she's thinking to herself, I will go to prison and be locked up in a camp if I speak out against them. So the only thing I can do is be on their side. And I think you could see the cognitive dissonance and the shattering of her mind because she knew. If I start calling out Howard Springs, we have that T-shirt, like come vacation Howard Springs. Yep. There's one story where 3 indigenous kids in a small community in the middle of nowhere, they came, took them under suspicion of COVID contact, brought them to an internment camp and locked them up and said, you can't leave. They threw like blankets over the razor wire, jumped the fence and escaped. And they were hunted down. And they were trying to arrest them. I'm like, yeah, totally voluntary COVID, camp. And she's like, they're not concentration camps. I'm like, well, they're literally driving up in vans, taking indigenous people and people from their homes, bringing them to camps and locking them up. They're concentrating them. Now, okay, fine, fair point. You think the allusion to World War II is too strong. Internment camps.
Yeah.
But this is my point. There's going to be a lot of people who will flip on a dime. And they would have been the most libertarian people in the world. But the moment they realize, hey, look, man, I live in D.C. I live just north of D.C. in Maryland. I'm going to get arrested in 2 seconds if I speak up. That's going to be interesting to see who does that.
COVID proved that as well a lot, how many people kind of fell under the regime as soon as things started getting called that way. Like you said, she immediately falls in line because of the way things are going, and I think that would continue.
I think it's fair to point out, too, not everybody agrees on everything, okay? Here we are right now saying to the people who are going down Texas, we do not want violence. We need Trump to win. In the event something actually kicked off hot, I am going to maintain that position to hope for stability so that Donald Trump can still take the presidency. That being said, I don't know, and I'm not going to say anything as to what happens here other than we don't want it to happen. You do not want civil war. I don't think the average American gets it. To be fair, I think the average person who watches a show like this gets it a little bit better, and all of the military veterans get it 100%. It is the world you knew is gone. You will continue shopping and eating food and cooking, but man, you ever see a rabbit eating grass outside? Just a little ball of stress the whole time. You never know when you're about to get snatched up by some bird of prey or some owl or who knows what. And so you're hiding all day, every day. It is not going to be fun. You know, you never know when someone's for no reason gonna attack you, and maybe even accidentally. It's just not going to be. It's not going to be as chill and comfortable.
Is this the issue Trump runs on? Immigration and economy?
He already is.
He's already run it.
I'm saying, but like,
that's
is
how we
there?
got to 2016.
Well, they're saying like what is his biggest loss right now is female voters, right? Like, does the vote on migrant crisis affect? Does that really push the female voters in his demographic? Like, to his
I think
demographic?
immigration is becoming a very unifying issue for conservative or even moderate people because the effects are so far reaching and they can see them all the time. The thing is, with the convoy to the border, there are people who want to be involved, they want to be on the ground, whatever else. I would say that Abbott has been preparing to be in this position for a long time, and it's better to let him work and to be supportive in a different way. It's the same thing with Trump. I mean, people will criticize Trump saying he didn't do enough when he was in office to achieve, whatever with immigration, but because he was the president, we have advanced this conversation, and it's become even more mainstream under a Democratic president. They couldn't deny what was going on.
Here's a story from the New York Post. Costco emergency food kits spark wild conspiracy theory by doomsday prepper. It's not just a doomsday prepper. There are many. And you don't see this. I think doomsday prepper is where they're trying to goad you.
Oh, that language is intentional.
Prepper is fine. Not everybody who's prepping is prepping for the doomsday. They're prepping because sometimes it rains, and when floodwaters come in, you need food. But let me just start by saying
Everyone buys
this.
toilet paper
That's
when
right.
COVID hits.
Let me just say, you guys have seen the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? What a fun show. Man, I remember back in the heyday of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire watching. It was like an ABC, how old was I? Like 10 years old. And they have a lifeline where you can ask the audience. And it only really works with like the earlier questions that are kind of easy. It would be like, which country is the first country to do whatever? And then it's like, I don't know, I'm gonna ask the audience. And then it shows like most people said A. Wisdom of the crowd, it's called. What we're seeing with Costco is really interesting. They've released these emergency meals you can buy. And we've also pitched one of our sponsors, safeandreadymeals.com. Now Costco is selling these ReadyWise buckets you can buy that contain, what do they say, 132 pasta meals for $63.99. These are price saving, as it were. Why is Costco doing this? The conspiracy theory is something bad is about to happen. Maybe it's World War III, maybe it's Civil War. I think I can up the ante on you. It is not just that there is a deep state plot. Like the government knows something's going to happen and they want people to buy the stuff to be ready without triggering alarm. Maybe. It could be worse in a different way. Costco just follows demand. Costco is not being told to do this so that they can prepare the population for World War III. They're doing it because the population believes World War III is about to happen. And the wisdom of the crowd is we need to stock up on emergency meals right now and gold because they're selling gold because it's about to get bad. Costco just simply reacts to the demand.
Yes, I think that's entirely true because the thing is, there are a lot of really good videos about Costco's business model. They keep fewer items on the shelves than an average grocery store, but the things that are there, they only keep if they're selling. And so they will occasionally test items. You'll see things that come for a little while and go, but if they think that this is something people are going to buy, it's a big decision because they only keep a limited number of items. It's interesting to me that Costco has said, people want this item. We're going to bring it in and we're going to see how long we can sell it for.
I periodically do pitches for one of our sponsors, safeandreadymeals.com. And when we do, it's only when there's like a big event that scares people. And it's not because people are scared. It's because I genuinely think people should be prepared. I don't think it makes sense this is why I only do it a couple times per year, maybe like 5 or 6. It'll be like there's a major storm or a blizzard happening. I'll be like, hey guys, you should have emergency food. Here's an example as to why you should do it. Right now, it's pretty wild because I believe Costco has analytics on sales and distributors. I bet they go to one of their warehouse distributors and they pay for data on what's coming and going. So you get a regional warehouse. Like, where do donuts come from your favorite donut shop? Well, small ones may bake the donuts. But the truth is, there will be like, I don't know if Dunkin' Donuts does this, but there will be one big factory that will produce a bunch of donuts and then ship them out to all the stores. If you have a regional warehouse distributor, maybe like Cisco does these things for restaurants. Actually, a good example is skateboarding. I don't want to speak to any other industry. I can speak to how skateboarding works. There will be a warehouse. The warehouse gets a contract with all the big companies that make wheels, bolts, boards, and they get distributor prices. Local skate shops then sign up to buy from that warehouse. That's how the system works. So imagine Costco goes to that warehouse and says, we will pay you $10,000 for all of your sales numbers. Then they see, holy crap, emergency food bins are skyrocketing. We carry this, we make bank.
Yeah, and especially since there's someone who's really particular about what they sell. I think this speaks to a change in American culture right now, which is that people, the average person who shops at Costco is saying, I want to be prepared. Again, it doesn't have to mean civil war or anything else. It could just mean like, I noticed last year we lost power a couple times. I noticed last year we couldn't get to the grocery store because the snow was too bad on our hill. Like there are all kinds of reasons.
The leftists could be blaming climate change
for sure.
Sure. Look, I hear what you're saying and I understand, but I would take the bet the average person won't say it, but they think the end is nigh.
I wonder if they think the end is nigh, or just generally there is a distrust in the system around them. There's this movement towards self-reliance. Like you get food to be prepared because you are thinking about the future. And that's a shift away from our general culture of I want to do things right now. I'm only going to think about right now. That's interesting. In fact, this should be an extremely encouraging change in Costco's policy because people who think about the future are people you want around you. People who are preparing for, something bad to happen are concerned about protecting themselves.
I will say this. Maybe it's actually just for like the past 2 years, I've basically made the pitch. You don't need the apocalypse to buy emergency food. And I genuinely believe that's true. Whenever we do these pitches, I'd say, look, like, there's a hurricane coming, make sure you have emergency food. But the reality is you don't buy it because you think the world is ending. You buy it because sometimes it rains. And there have been instances where the power has gone out for several days. In New York, when Hurricane Sandy hit, Lower East Side was without power for a while. And a lot of food had foiled. A lot of food has spoiled. And if people had emergency food in their houses, they'd have been totally fine. We'll just crack at the old stockpile. Mm-hmm. But the thing about these meals is you don't eat them. You don't. So if you have them, you only eat them when you absolutely have no choice. Mm-hmm. So like you go to like one of these like Fortitude Ranch, for instance, is like an emergency. I don't call it a bunker. It's more like a outdoorsmanship timeshare because in the event the apocalypse happens, sure, you can go there. But they're like, yeah, we have emergency food. But before you ever go into that, you are foraging, you are hunting, you are finding other ways, you are farming. And then when the winter hits and your crop was bad, you crack open the emergency food.
Yeah. There are things you buy for the future or you buy them because you don't know when you'll need them and you don't want to be in a position where you're without resources. And I think that's, again, extremely interesting. People who are saying everything's fine, I don't need to be prepared for the future, are also saying I believe that everything that's going on right now is okay. And I think the majority of people don't feel that way.
Mr. J super chatted that Costco's been selling those in Texas for a long time.
I was going to say one of the most interesting things would be to see a state-by-state breakdown of which ones are
because they shift their project regionally.
Yeah,
I imagine it's probably being sold in Utah as well because the LDS Church teaches people to stockpile significantly in case of storms or anything else that may happen.
The point, however, it's that people who did not notice these before are now noticing them. So that, actually it's quite simple. Costco said, hey, we've been selling these things in Texas and sales have been skyrocketing. Let's start carrying them in other stores. I think we'll make money.
Capitalism, baby.
Yeah. And now you can look at it and be like, why are people buying so much of this?
Because you're a good salesman and we should all be prepared.
It could also be the thing that for a lot of them, like they were there. It's just that now they are thinking about the end is nigh. So they notice the emergency pack more now than they would have when they were kind of under the illusion that things were better than they were before.
I think that's a good cultural shift, though, in
Yeah.
general. People should be buying things like this on a consistent basis. I mean, it just, in my mind, it's like people are starting to trust the government less and less, which is, of course, a good thing. There's no negative when it comes to that.
You actually don't need to buy these things on a regular basis.
Oh, no. Well,
I mean, I can't speak for Costco.
depending on the size or how long.
Well,
no,
if you're just like buying canned food to prepare, that's something you do regularly.
Canned foods don't even last that long, to be honest. But the emergency buckets that we've pitched last 25 years. If they're stored in a cool, dry place, 25 years. You buy one, you never buy them again. Unless your family grows.
Remember when when the government released that list of things that were like signs of domestic terrorists? There was like self-reliance, canning your own goods, making things like that. Anything that
Basically
involved
homesteading.
any type of homesteading was labeled as far-right extremist behavior.
Okay, I just saw this picture for the first time.
Oh, that is awesome.
Freeze-dried vanilla ice cream sandwiches. What do you do? Do you like put it in a bowl of milk?
Nah, you just eat it.
You just eat it.
Sells
It's
those at like
delicious.
aerospace
It's delicious.
museums.
Yeah, really?
Yep.
Yeah, freeze-dried ice cream
like
sandwiches.
Ice cream? Yeah.
I've had freeze-dried ice
You know,
cream
you know.
before,
Yeah.
and it's like I don't know how it's like
brittle.
meringue.
Yeah, it's like brittle meringue. It like breaks
Yeah.
apart.
It's delicious.
Get some-
Chewy, delicious.
I think
could
we
you,
should
like-
get one of these and do a review on this show.
we should
live.
get some
Can you
Castle.
rehydrate it?
I imagine you could. I don't know. I don't see why you couldn't.
Soggy
Just
ice
dunk
cream.
it in
You
some
would have
snow.
to freeze it again, obviously, though. Yeah, once you rehydrate it.
You just stick it in the snow
Oh
bank.
yeah.
during-
What would happen to
during
the
winter
freeze-dried? I like
storm.
would the ice cream just like if you rehydrate it, would just turn to liquid?
Yeah, that's what I think so. And then you'd have to freeze that again, and then you'd have like reconstituted ice cream, which I don't know why you'd do that.
I bet if you dipped it in milk, it would be awesome.
Yeah, it probably would be. I have never done that, but
I learned that full-grown cows make up to like 12 gallons of milk per day.
yeah.
That's
a lot.
crazy, dude.
There is
Too
something
much milk.
hilariously dystopian about the idea that it's like the end of the world is coming and the businessman is just there like unbeknownst to anything. He's like, oh, people want to buy stuff for the end of the world. I guess they'll sell them stuff for the end of the world. That's fine. It's it goes on. I love it.
And then the businessman is using the money he gets to prepare for the end of the world.
Exactly. It's perfect.
He's the one building the
his
bunkers.
bunker. Yeah,
But
exactly.
there are companies that were like, oh, I mean, I remember seeing these videos in like 2012 when people would be like, I own a company that will build you a bunker.
Yes,
I have this
yeah.
model. It's like getting
And
a
safe rooms
prefab
and-
house. Sure.
Yep.
Like, I don't think it's necessarily bad for people to sell these types of things if you can do it. It's just interesting that it has become so mainstream. Costco was like, I think the average suburban family might buy one of these meals.
Family
Oh
meals.
man, that's
Family
crazy.
Like, who is shopping at Costco? You know, like it's just people who are regular average Americans who might look at it and say this is worth having. Again, good cultural shift.
Well, I have good news. Maybe it never gets to that point. We have this from SCNR.com. White House reportedly wants to replace Kamala Harris, acknowledging Biden is in decline. This comes from the intrepid work of James O'Keefe, who had this is one of the most brutal undercover investigations he's done, in my opinion. But it is newsworthy, it is important, and it is the fault of the target of the sting operation, or whatever you want to call it, the investigation. Okay, so basically James goes on a date, I guess, with a guy. And the guy
Dressed as Clark Kent.
He puts on, what do you put on, like a vest and glasses.
He should have parted his hair the opposite way. Just parts it the other direction.
Am I crazy in thinking he tweeted the other day, like,
Yes.
what if I dyed my hair and wore glasses and wanted to,
Yeah, he
like, do you think I
literally-
get recognized? Or
he
something
probably
like
tweeted that after.
It was
he
probably
left
already
it.
done.
I hope so.
So look, this is a top White House cybersecurity official speaking with James O'Keefe in disguise. James was just wearing glasses in
He didn't even
disguise.
dye his hair like his tweet.
But
These people are not smart.
here's what's important.
No.
This guy says they've had discussions about removing Kamala Harris, but they can't because she's the first black multiracial VP and she's next in line. Something everyone on the right has acknowledged. They won't say publicly. We know they have already discussed it. He's also acknowledged but the signs of Biden's decline are there, but he's not been clinically diagnosed with dementia. And this guy, look, I'm watching this video from James, and I feel real bad for him. I feel bad for this guy, but I don't feel bad enough to where I care because he works in the executive office of the White House. These things that are being said must be said to the American people.
Yeah.
And the only way we can learn about the fears that the White House has with their failing and ailing president is when someone privately says it. They won't go public and say, listen, the American people, we're concerned about this. To be fair, fine, security issues may freak people out. A functioning government and country, in my opinion, knowing that Joe Biden was incapable, would remove him. They would come out and say, we need him to step down, 25th Amendment, we're getting rid of him, but they don't want to because they don't want to lose power. In the end, James makes the best point. You work in cybersecurity for the White House, and then he takes his glasses off and goes, why are you having a meeting with James O'Keefe? And the guy's like, oh yeah, I've heard of you. And he's like, you're just telling me everything. And I was like, yeah, I feel bad in the sense that this guy thought he was going on a date and he was just gonna have a good time and then spilled all the beans. I don't feel, well, no, but I feel, on a personal level, it's like, some guy is gonna have some wine with James O'Keefe.
You thought you were going on a date. Turns out you're being set up. Like,
but here's the
that's
issue.
not fun.
Here's a question. So I was watching this with my girlfriend, and immediately she goes, "Does he have clearance?" And I was like, "Oh man,
Not anymore.
right? I bet he did." And he's saying, "Yo, you can't go out and tell a random person from the White House office we've discussed having Kamala Harris be replaced on the ticket."
That's
What if
huge.
they know that it's James O'Keefe, so they just use it to plant false information?
I don't
feel
think
like
they're that
that's not-
smart. You're giving them too much of the
No,
benefit of the doubt.
there's a thing when they were promoting the Man of Steel, they had Henry Cavill sit directly under a Superman poster and nobody recognized him.
And I think people know James's name, but not everyone knows his face. I mean, because some of his work is done by other undercover reporters and stuff like that.
And James points out, I mean, look, they're working cybersecurity. They should know who James O'Keefe is.
You would think. Well, and if they are working in
most
cybersecurity,
prominent.
and if he is prominent in cybersecurity, it would most likely be a top secret security clearance that he has, that he just burned on camera in front of. How many views does that have now? I mean, probably millions at this point. So
It was trending.
Takes off the glasses. He's like, "Oh, I remember you from that oligarchy music video."
Yeah, it's got
You sang Mariah Carey on that one
guys,
podcast.
it's got 9.3 million views.
and that's just on the original post.
Yeah.
So his security clearance is burned at this point. I can almost guarantee.
I need to stress, guys, look, as I'm watching this, we're having lunch. I had a chicken Caesar salad, blackened chicken. It was incredible, by the way. Everyone agrees. And I just feel bad for this lonely guy who met some dude probably on some dating app, and it was James O'Keefe the whole time. But what I love about this, I'm sorry, I have to say it, is the meme where it was like, if you are talking to a beautiful woman, it is James O'Keefe.
Yes.
If you work in tech, if you work for democratic organizations, and the most beautiful woman in the world is super into you, it's James O'Keefe.
I bet they do.
This time, it was literally James O'Keefe.
I bet it's a super like that they get too. It's like not just a normal like, but they hit them with a super like. The star pops up and everything, makes them feel all giddy inside. Then they go on the date and just get absolutely burned on a national level.
I think this needs to be stressed, though. My point is, as much as I felt bad, James broke one of the biggest stories of the year right here with someone who works in the White House outright saying, we have had meetings about replacing Kamala Harris on the ticket. Yeah. We are not going to, but they've acknowledged that she is unpopular and can't win. That is massive scoop that James O'Keefe got by doing this.
But there's the party of unity and coming together.
Yes.
It's just crazy to me that the Democratic president can't pull this off. I mean, it's nice to have confirmation for a thing I think everyone suspected, but really, hopefully this is a video that you play to anyone who's moderate or left in your life and say, this is from your own camp. This is someone who actively supports Biden. They work in his White House, and they're saying the VP and president are frayed at best, and also no one likes this VP, and also we think he has dementia. This is your strong leadership for the nation right now. Is this what you want?
I feel like you could, but at the same time, a lot of these people are so disillusioned. They'll take like the Mark Cuban stance of like, you edit your videos. Like this has to be edited.
yeah.
It's deep fake. It's AI, something along those
That's
lines.
the frustrating thing about AI and like all the deepfake stuff is that it just makes it easier for all kinds of people to deny the truth. And in this case, I think there are people who would not trust James O'Keefe just out of personal bias, right? They don't trust anything he does. But the Biden administration can't hide the fact that they are in a rough position. I mean, when we talk about Biden's health, they delay releasing his physical every year later and later. And I swear that doctor who signs it must just be sort of like lying.
He's just conducting it on himself.
He's just like, well,
He's holding the stethoscope up to
he's
his
like,
own heart.
last year, this was the thing. Like when the last one came out, there's a specific line about Biden's gait, and people will say it's like a dementia shuffle. There's a sign that this is what's happening. And he was like, yes, his gait has stiffened, but really not that much, and it's actually fine. And this is the thing that they do over and over again. Like, we acknowledge that you might be seeing something, But
happening.
you're insane for thinking it's
But it's
worth
actually
anything.
a good thing.
You're acting crazy.
He started shuffling because the weight of the far-right
Democracy.
extremists are just bearing him down, and how dare you question him?
I do appreciate. Look, like it's there's a bit of confirmation bias that I think everybody has. Like the idea of pointing out there's edits in this video. That's actually a good instinct to have for everyone. You should apply that same logic to the people who make content that you agree with as well. You should be looking for the where the video starts, where the video ends. Are there cuts in here? Is there something that's being removed? It's just that it seems most people can only seem to apply that when they already disagree with the point. They're not willing to look critically at the stuff they agree with in the same way. And I think that you open yourself up to a lot more information if you're willing to do that.
The other big scoop here, which may not apply to today, but is very relevant, is that he said, I had a meeting with Michelle Obama, an intern. He said, someone asked her, he said, when I was an intern, someone asked her, will you ever run for office? And she said, no, emphatically no. I've seen all the ish my husband has had to go through, and it does not interest me. So many people have pointed out Michelle Obama does not want to run. Mm-hmm. He said Biden will be the nominee. Kamala Harris will be the VP on the ticket, and that's what they will play. And it's just kind of like, maybe this guy did know who James was the whole time. And they're baiting him because, Biden can't win. I understand that we were saying this in 2020. So I will gladly say, knock on wood, you never know what's going to happen. But at the time, Biden actually was winning in the polls, and we were in disbelief the polls could be right. And I think we were mostly correct. The polls were not right. And due to very clever, what we call it, shadow campaigning is what Time Magazine called it. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden wins the presidency, as how I'll describe it.
Shadow campaign.
I think right now, when Ian is talking about how his parents are like, man, this migrant crisis is crazy. I'm like, Biden's losing the normies. Mm-hmm. How are they going to maintain the facade?
Well, I even have like what I would consider normies within my family, my extended family. Whenever I'm, around, they're asking me about this because they're seeing some of my reporting or they're seeing what's going on with the border. And that's always what they want to talk about is the border because that's what they find the most interest in. And, they talk about, how are our tax-paying dollars going towards this? And it genuinely makes them mad. Right. So when I see this happen over and over again whenever I'm at family events, and I'm like, okay, so people that usually don't pay attention to politics or usually don't even follow my work within my family are now noticing. So the noticing is high nowadays, I would say.
I think part of it is that people feel the economic pressure. I mean, no one thinks Biden has done a good job on the economy. If you talk to normal people, things are tough. And so to hear on top of that not only do we send money abroad, but also when we spend money domestically, it's actually on people who are not here legally. It must be infuriating. I mean, that's the conversation everyone's going to have with themselves right now. It's like, is this working? And Trump's strongest thing has always been immigration, and it's never been something Biden can handle.
So real quick, just on the other story about the migrants at the airport, I've got some photos sent to me that are a little bit clearer, but they're just screenshots. He is definitely wearing a brown round. Yeah, you can clearly see it. And his insignia on his arm is a drill sergeant insignia, it would appear. So no idea what that means, but that would imply this is not National Guard. It could be that he's just in transit or something, but why would he stop someone from filming illegal immigrants? And why would he be sitting outside the door in that way? And
in his own little rolly chair as well.
Yeah.
He's not just sitting in a chair that happens to be outside of it.
Let's just say maybe he's just traveling and he's sitting in this random chair that has nothing to do with anything and decided to stop the guy from filming just because. No idea.
I mean, I could understand if you thought someone was filming you being like, hey, stop. But in this case, it doesn't seem like he is just sort of waiting for a flight. It seems like this is an intentional place that he is lingering.
Yeah, when I'm in the airport, I don't care if people are filming either. So I actually have had a few situations where, you have some Karens come up to you as you're filming these illegal immigrants and they'll try and stop you. And it's always hilarious because, my cameraman, poor Juan, he tries to be nice with them. And I just immediately flip the switch and it's like, get out of my face, but I say it a lot more angry, and then they immediately kind of shut down and they can't even fathom that you're telling them to just leave you alone so I can do my job. Yeah. But if I'm just a random dude in the airport and I see somebody filming, I'm not going to go up to you, especially if you're filming something that's totally unrelated to you, and maybe you're in the background of it. I'm not saying
I learned something very important about these protesters from owning a cat. So, you get these protesters, they come up to get in your face when you're trying to film, and they're just trying to obstruct you. And so whenever my cat comes up to me and is, being annoying, whatever, I just blow on them. Mm-hmm. You just blow on them and they go away. And there you go. When the protesters come, you start blowing in their face. And stop, what are you doing? And they try to hold their hand in front of your camera or whatever. You blow on them. They'll go away. Actually, I'm kidding. Don't do that. I don't know what the legality is of blowing on.
I think you'd be fine. How are you going to prove that I was blowing on you? I was breathing. I was exhaling. I took a big breath in,
A strong exhale.
You were close enough to feel my breath on your face. You're too close.
Being filmed?
Yeah.
You pull the camera out. He's like, I'm out.
If Bucko's annoying you, you just pull up the camera and he immediately goes away.
Yeah, but in the video that we saw from Daily Caller, it's wild that people are like, stop. I just got to say, these people are evil. Look, you go to a Trump rally, walk around with the camera, and you've done it. And what happens? They crowd around in excitement and say, ooh, look at me. I want to talk about why I care about America. And here's what I want to do. And here's everything I believe in.
They have nothing to hide.
I stand by these things. Yeah. And then you go to the left and they're like, quick, shut them down. People are going to find out what we're really up to.
Well, it's just like at protests that turn into riots. They will not allow filming at all because they know what is going on is illegal and they want it to remain hidden. So,
well, it's not just that it's illegal. They know that if the public finds out what they're doing, that they will lose public support. Yep. So there's a lot of memes about this, but this is what I experienced with Occupy Wall Street. There's a famous video where Occupy Wall Street put this video out, and it's a cop swinging his baton violently at people, and they made the baton turn into a lightsaber. Very smart. And they were like, it was a double layer psyop. The idea was a cop attacked protesters. We're going to make fun of him. Everyone shared the video. So people start sharing this video of the cop with the baton going, zoom, zoom, and they're like, ha, ha, ha. What they don't show you is the cop got attacked first by Occupy Wall Street protesters, rioters at that point, knocking down a barricade and then knocking his hat off and shoving him. And then he starts pushing with the baton, then swings. When I'm down there and I'm filming this and it's raw and live streamed, they're getting pissed off because now regular people get an archive of exactly what happened. Protester attacked cop, cop attacked protester, not cop randomly attacked protester. Don't get me wrong, cops also randomly arrest random people too and lie about it. Not going to defend them on that one.
But in this context, yeah.
Everyone's trying to win some agenda by controlling the flow of information.
It's the Ryan Long bit where he's like, I take the footage of the cop attacking the protester, I sell it to CNN. I take the footage of the protester attacking the cop, I sell it to Fox.
Yep.
And the best part is like, once I accidentally sent video of protesters picking up garbage to Fox News and they got mad and said, what's this? I said, just play it in reverse. It looks like they're littering. That was a good one. Just play it in reverse. It looks like they're littering. Yeah, that was a great bit. How he can sell the same footage to both news agencies,
it really is true though. Like in my experience of licensing footage, like you license certain footage to. When I was independent, you license certain news organizations want to see certain like different things. So the violent stuff, clearly goes to Fox and the more right wing organizations, and then the rah rah the speeches and stuff. That's what the left wing organizations want to see.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of truth behind that.
Yeah, but like if you get a video of a cop whacking a protester, MSNBC is going to be like, name your price. You get video of a protester whacking a cop, Fox News says, name your price.
Yep.
To be fair, though, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic. Fox is absolutely more fair. That's just, of course, they want that, hey, this is going to do really well on TV, so we want this video where the cop is being hit or whatever. But in my experience, these left-wing organizations will shut you down in 2 seconds if the narrative is outside in any way, and Fox will run whatever you want to say.
A perfect example of that is after January 6th, after I documented the shooting of Ashley Babbitt, Fox, at least Laura Ingraham, they licensed my video, and I went on and actually appeared, and I told them what happened. She wasn't being violent. She was actively trying to de-escalate. And then all the left-wing organizations, they scheduled an interview with me after they licensed my footage, and then they canceled last second, and then ran with their own narrative that was completely wrong.
Yep. Yeah, that's how it works.
I think that's why people become disenfranchised with the media, right? They see the same video appear in different places without context. And I think that's what I find so interesting about the ecosystem that's appeared. I mean, you're definitely a huge part of this, of independent journalists or, people who start off on just kind of because they want to know. They want to be on the ground. I think Tim is similar in this respect. Who can tell you, well, this is what was going on there, and you are able to connect with them more directly through YouTube or X or Rumble or whatever. You are more likely to believe the person who has built themselves up than the person who is just sort of suddenly appearing under the brand name mainstream media logo and saying, no, don't question anything, I have it right.
Yep. Hence why mainstream media is dying at rates we've never seen before. And digital media, at least independent digital media, is growing at rates that we've also never seen before. Shout out to Tenet Media.
So, someone super chatted too saying basic Army trainees fly into Atlanta's drill sergeants pick them up. Wish there was more to it, but probably not. The state senator said the Army guy, it's U.S. Army, says, took my phone. It was a scrimmage between he and I in order to get the phone back. And he proceeded to tell me to get out of here. I made a big scene out of it. So it's like, I don't know, man.
And maybe he's just really pro-illegal immigrant. Maybe he just loves these people.
Maybe he was just there to pick up some, trainees, and then he got asked, hey, can you watch this room while you're waiting? And he was like, sure, I have no idea. But I feel like I hope this story makes it to members of Congress who can launch an inquiry and get someone to testify as to why this happened. Ask this state senator to testify. And we got to know what this was about. Maybe it's just the Army guy of his own volition was like, I don't like cameras. Okay.
Maybe.
That's the simplest explanation to me. He just didn't want to be filmed. But again, we need context as to why this person was there at all, or why does he happen to be in front of this room full of, criminal migrants. I don't get why so many things are lining up. If he were just anywhere in the airport, I would buy that it was like, I don't like to be filmed, but the fact that he's in front of this room.
Why would they have a drill sergeant guarding a room?
Exactly. Well, and, I don't like to be filmed, but if someone's filming me, I'm not going to assault them on camera to get them to stop filming me. That doesn't seem very logical.
It's very weird.
Yeah. He's like, look, I haven't done my makeup yet. I got to just get the camera off me.
I don't know. But I don't want to believe that there is an official order. That being said, CBP is actively engaged in human smuggling.
Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be surprising at this point. It really wouldn't be. Mm-hmm. With the root of corruption and the root of cartel and NGO money flowing around, because it is a lot more. I mean, the NGO that I was at with San Antonio PD, their federal funding, I think it went from 10 million to like 70 million year by year. So the amount that they're getting and then the amount that they're basically hiding and straight up laundering is insane, and it grows year by year. So this is huge money for anybody involved.
Dude, I think that's like the big thing that shakes a lot of people that are like the old school classic Democrats do, is when you tell them and you explain how much money they're getting and how much is just going nowhere.
This may be a substantially larger scandal than we yet realize. I will stress, maybe is a lot of nothing. But we got a super chat. And this is from, let me see, here we go. Let's see, which one was I just reading? This one's big, so I want to make sure I get it right. BQ says, Tim, to be honest, it looks like a group going to boot camp. I was stuck in an unmarked room at an airport until my flight was ready. However, they were volunteers from a group called Team Libertad, which boasts helping migrants travel on social media. I think the pieces line up pretty perfectly that criminal aliens are being trained to join the armed forces.
Well, and there's been a lot of interviews too where people talk to these criminal aliens that are coming over, and they're like, what did you do in your home country? And they straight up say, we're soldiers. Like, that is what we did. I mean, you have dozens of these interviews happening. So I would not put it past them trying to recruit, especially with recruitment numbers being so low. If you're allowing them into the country illegally, why wouldn't you want them to join the army?
You have a room full of migrants, a whistleblower reported to a state senator, Republican state senator in Georgia, who went there and filmed and saw Team Libertad. In fact, you can see Team Libertad on his shirt with a lanyard, an organization which boasts of helping migrants travel on social media, with a drill sergeant out in front, apparently guarding the room and trying to stop the guy from filming. The most likely scenario, criminal aliens are being offered, join the U.S. military, and they're heading to training.
Doesn't look good.
I don't know that's true. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying that seems to be the most plausible scenario here. And we've predicted this as a possibility. Many people have. That U.S. military numbers, recruitment numbers are way down.
Way down.
People don't want to join up, and they may have found their way to bolster the numbers. Could it be the reason the Costco is selling more food? World War III is potentially on the horizon. Iran is about to be, Biden's going to attack Iran. And so they're like, we don't know or care where we get them from. We need as many troops as possible. These are going to be low tier guys they can drop on the front lines, but what do they care?
Man, I remember when I was trying to join the army out of high school, I had to get my hand tattoo lasered off because they wouldn't give me a special waiver. And now here we are, potentially recruiting illegal immigrants.
Let's jump to this story. Ladies and gentlemen, once again in the news, Ben Shapiro's new song hit #1 on iTunes. How did that happen? But I want to stop you right now. This segment is not about Ben Shapiro rapping. We've talked about that ad nauseum. It does revolve around the issue of Ben Shapiro rapping, but it has more to do with how the narrative machine is fake, how they trick you into thinking demonic degenerates are popular. I'm driving in the car, and we hear that song from Sam Smith. I forgot what it's called, but it's a song about how the dad is secretly abandoning his family to have gay orgies. That's actually what it's about. Do you know?
Wow.
Do you know the song?
No,
With
not
the
shocked,
with the
though.
transgender singer.
Sounds like Sam Smith.
Look it up.
I've never
Body
heard it.
Shop
and I'm
or
glad.
something?
Kim Petras.
Oh,
is
yeah.
the
Kim
one.
Petras? Is that what it's called?
I think
No, it's
so.
with Kim Petras is on the song.
No,
The song, I think
Body
it's
Shop.
called Body Shop.
Yeah, it's basically Sam Smith is singing that there's a guy and his family is unaware that he ditches them and disappears to go to bathhouses and have gay orgies. Like literally what the song's about.
That takes like going out for milk and not coming back to a whole other level.
Now, here's the important thing.
How cool.
You see these people perform at big award ceremonies. You see Lil Nas X, insult Christians, fillet the devil. I guess he did that in like one of his music videos. And they want you to believe it's popular. You get Nicki Minaj and you get like Megan Thee Stallion, and they want you to believe that WAP and things like this are popular. But what we're learning now, thanks to Tom McDonald, is exactly how it's fake. And this is important to understand. Don't believe the manipulations. Washington Post breaks down this the con game. They don't break it down. They exemplify it. But Tom McDonald here in this video explains exactly how they are lying to you. Now, what Tom's video is about is the music industry is cheating. I want to play this minute clip from Tom McDonald, but then I want to elaborate on what he's saying. Here's the clip.
I'm going to show you guys how the music industry cheats on the charts, and I guarantee you didn't know this. This is the iTunes charts. That's my song Facts featuring Ben Shapiro at #1. You see how Megan Thee Stallion has 2 versions of the same song at #2 and #3? You see how Nicki Minaj has 8 versions of the same song at 4, 6, 8, 16, 17, 19, 20, and 23? You ever wonder why they do that? Every song has an ID number called a UPC code. This code is what Billboard uses to count song sales. If you release multiple versions of a song, you can use the same UPC code for every version. That means Nicki Minaj's 8 versions count as 1 song when Billboard collects the numbers. We're competing against 10 songs, and all 10 versions are going to be combined into 2 songs. Seems pretty unfair, doesn't it? Yeah, that's the music industry. That's why we need everyone who sees this to go download Facts on iTunes or Amazon. Billboard stops collecting our numbers in 24 hours. This is our last chance to lock in that #1 on Billboard. Go get those downloads of Facts by Tom McDonald and Ben Shapiro on iTunes or Amazon. We'd sure appreciate it, guys. Thanks for the help. I'm going to show you guys.
Let me break this down a little bit further. Tom's pointing out how. Let me see if I can get. There you go. This is true, and we've dealt with this too. A lot of people will release a song, and then they'll release a remix at the same time. That's one song, even though they're completely different. So what I'm talking to Carter about, I was like, let's do a song and record it in 4 different genres. Let's do acoustic folk. Let's do new wave retro. Let's do hard rock. And let's do country. And it's one song. And we can make the one song for everybody. This is the game they play. The reason why it's important, Megan Thee Stallion, what is it, Bigfoot? That song is going to hit the top of the charts. All of the woke media is going to, oh, haha, she beat Ben Shapiro. She's so much better and bigger for whatever reason. And it's through these manipulative games, they want you to believe the most popular music among young kids these days is degenerate filth. When in reality, that's not true. It's technically true, and that's another thing that's pointed out by the Washington Post. Again, I know a lot of people are like, I don't care about Ben Shapiro rapping. Fine. That's not the point. The point is what we're learning. In this article, they talk. It talks about like what's going on with the song, and they have this really important part. Who is Tom McDonald? Has he had hits before? They say this: is Facts really a hit? No. Hold on. It's #1 on iTunes worldwide. Why would the Washington Post even ask that question? What's the implication? It's not? No, for real. If a song is #1 on the iTunes charts and the Amazon charts right now, worldwide, for what purpose would Washington Post actually ask this question? This is priming. They want people to think it may not really be a hit. But here's what they say. This is important. Facts held the #1 spot on iTunes Music as of Wednesday, January 31st, sitting ahead of Megan Thee Stallion's Hiss and Nicki Minaj's Bigfoot. According to Apple, did they have that backwards? I thought Bigfoot was, that is Nicki Minaj. Okay. They say, according to Apple, iTunes numbers are calculated by what songs are downloaded and bought through iTunes, different than Apple Music, which purely measures streams. Streaming numbers paint a different picture. As of Wednesday morning, the song had just over 1 million listens on Spotify. On Apple Music, the song hadn't cracked the top 100 songs in the country. Apple did not share data about the song's overall streaming numbers. They go on to mention label artists have access to playlisting and resources that independents do not, said McDonald on the song's success on iTunes compared with streaming. If we want to compete with them on the Billboard charts, this is the way to do it. Yada, yada, yada. I think they mentioned the numbers of here we go. Megan Thee Stallion's Facts has 9.7 million views on YouTube. And Hiss from Megan Thee Stallion has 8.2 million on YouTube. And the Bigfoot audio video has 3.7 million views on Minaj's page. Here's the point. They're asking the question, is it really a hit? Because they're trying to set up manipulative narrative control. What we are seeing right here, I can break down for you how they trick you. The Apple streaming numbers, when they say, oh, Tom McDonald didn't even hit the top of the charts, that's too bad. Do you want to know how you get on top of the charts? You're a major label producer. Your label goes to the charts and says, your modern music pop chart must have this in rotation X amount of times per hour. How would Tom McDonald compete with them saying default play on the streaming service? Imagine if every time you went to YouTube, the only thing you could see was Timcast IRL. We would have billions of views. And we'd be like, well, we're the biggest podcast in the world because we're the best. No, it's because the service puts you in front. Now, it may be that these streaming services are just like, it's the easy route. These are big famous artists. We hear about them in the news. So we put them in our digital streaming playlists. And when the average person signs up for the first time, this is what they get. You go to YouTube Music, this is what you get. Why? Power attracts power. If I have to wonder why it is. I talked about this before. There was a song by Paramore, which has 6 million views after a year. And they're playing it at the Hard Rock Seminole in Miami. And I'm like, this song is not popular, culturally relevant. No diss to Paramore. I'm a big fan of Paramore. But I'm like, it's not one of their biggest songs ever. Why is it being played? It's just easy to give them the default position. Here's the reality of what matters. Do you sell? Do you make money? Right now, no question, Tom McDonald and Ben Shapiro have made substantially more money off this song in terms of consumption of the song than Nicki Minaj did and Megan Thee Stallion. Done. That's it. So what are we really measuring? The machine has set up the creative arts industry, movies or otherwise, in such a fashion that they have fabricated and manufactured popular music that is not actually popular. It's been this way for a long time. It's worse today than it's ever been with streaming services. But the main issue here is the songs they're putting out and claiming are popular are very often degenerate. Guns, 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 shots, 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 doing drugs, all this really awful stuff. And they want you to believe it's popular. It's not.
No, I don't think it is. I find, because you guys released a song in December and now this one's coming out with Ben Shapiro, I find it a really interesting experiment because if we had all kinds of people sort of in alternative media space doing these kinds of music, every month they're going to pretend that no, this one's not a hit. The more information you get about the system works, the better prepared you are to sort of launch a song and try and catch them in their own games. At a certain point, they're making it more obvious what they're doing by denying everyone who attempts to come in from the outside. It's just a really expensive experiment, I would assume.
Is it really a hit? That question's incredible.
Right.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's the number one song in the world on iTunes means it is.
But they're going to say it's not, which is interesting because I think this is something that they'll do over and over again. I mean, there are only going to be more music artists who now are saying, well, I want to try and get on Billboard's Hot 100. And again, the more obvious it becomes that they're shutting certain kinds of people out, basically functionally discriminating against them, the more invalid their data becomes. Because that's what gets me. They weigh the different streams at different amounts, meaning that it doesn't matter what people are actually listening to. It just matters who is ultimately lining their pockets.
The film industry did this over the summer with Sound of Freedom in much the same way. Much the same way that they point out that, look, they're spending $250 million on movies that don't even break a quarter of what they need to even break even, let alone profit. But when Sound of Freedom came out, they actually started to call into question the way that they were fundraising to make you think that people didn't actually want to go see this movie. They're saying, well, people are buying tickets, but people aren't really going to the movie. They were saying that.
Dude, and wasn't it crazy how many people said the power went out?
Yeah.
The air conditioning went out? I know people personally who are like, the theater shut down.
It happened to several people that I know here in Maryland.
Well, they're not just doing this same thing to, Ben Shapiro and this other artist, but they've done it to Bryson Gray. They've done it to when Trump released they released the song with the Trump soundtrack over for the J6ers. They did the exact same thing with
They
that
did to us a month ago.
Exactly. So it's a very, I mean, just like what Hannah said, how many times are they going to keep doing this? Denying reality is their MO. And it's not just in this industry. It's in the movie industry. It's anytime conservatives try to have a like true crack in culture.
Because they want to control the narrative. And they, for one, I think a big play is destroying Christianity. I'm not a Christian, but come on. The stuff they're promoting, it's just like very on the nose.
Well, look at Lil Nas X's most recent. It's like him being crucified in the music video as he says, "I'm a Christian." It's like, no, you're not.
Well, and Sabrina Carpenter got in trouble for filming that music video in the Brooklyn, the cathedral in Brooklyn. And they came out and they like purified the altar and everything because for whatever reason, it's okay to treat Christians like the other and to mock their religion, but you wouldn't do it to anyone else. I think that in some ways, this is what turns Americans off from mainstream music, whether it be pop, rap, whatever genre, just like anything that's playing on the radio when you're constantly hearing like be hypersexual, hate everything around you, commit crimes, like live a life that's just falling apart. You don't want to listen to that. I think it becomes something you want to reject.
I think a lot of it is, I think that most people are listening to this stuff more passively and they're not actually, like we're hyper analyzing what's going on here. And the average person is a consumer, like to the T, that term, consumer. They're just consuming this stuff. It is annoying when they, as somebody who's not religious either, to watch them act like it's still edgy. As if they're pushing against some type of institution that still has great power here in America, which, as we know within the entertainment industry, that's just not the truth anymore. And acting as if you're some type of rebel for hating on Catholics or Christians is just, it's not just lame, it's just unbelievably cringy.
Well, it's the only religion that you can actually go out and critique in the way that they do. Look at what the drag queens did, or I don't even know what they were called, the Sisters of something at the Dodger Stadium.
Yep.
That's perfectly okay and acceptable. God forbid you do that with Islam or any other religion. You're not allowed to do that here. And it just shows, okay, I mean, the underlying symptoms of America's disease, I think, is a lack of Christianity and the attack on Christianity. And they're doing it for a reason. There is, personally, I believe, a lot of strength through Christ. Christ is Lord. And they continue to do this because what comes with Christianity? Basic morals. That's really all that it is.
Also, for them, there's a lot of Marxist beliefs that are tied in there with where they believe the power structure here is in America, where you're allowed to criticize this group because you fall lower or higher on the oppression scale than someone else does. And unfortunately, those groups are always going to be fair game to them. I just find it unbelievably lame that they still believe it's. I would almost have more respect if they were doing it, but not talking about it as if they were like somehow sticking it to the man by doing it. I'm like, you're the man.
But I think
you're
what
the
you're
system
saying,
now.
I think what you said before about passive consumption is right. I think most of these record label streaming things, it's like we always make fun of CNN because it's playing in like empty airports across the nation. Like this stuff is playing on the radio. Radio actually does get a fair amount of attention, but it's just playing in the background for a lot of people's lives. I think really though, people are waking up to it and saying like, I don't want to listen to this. I mean, I've gotten anecdotally told by a lot of women like, oh yeah, I was feeling really anxious, feeling really depressed, and then I stopped watching shows that just drove my anxiety. I gave up true crime.
They stopped watching the true crime shows.
Right. I mean, it's not just true crime; it's all kinds of stuff. But when you consume content that is negative, ultimately, even if it's at a fast beat or whatever you think, like you are ultimately warping your perspective, and I think people don't want that right now.
Not to backtrack, sorry, Tim, but I had an U.S. Retired Army veteran comment. The patch seen in that video in the Daily Caller story, 194th Armor Brigade from Fort Moore. So it is the Army.
Wow. I want to point this out too. In the article, Tom McDonald says, we're outperforming her in every metric. They're not allowing us to pass Megan and hit the #1 spot. Right now, they said the song is #3 trending on YouTube behind Hiss and Bigfoot, despite outperforming them in every metric.
Is a lot of it also just like there's incentives and there's bonuses that are attached with artists reaching certain levels, and the industry is insulated in a way that allows them to find success under their own metrics so that they can bolster their own artists? Like these labels, right?
I mean, yeah, it's not just music, it's commercials, TV.
Yes, I'm not
movies.
just like we're talking about the cultural impact. I'm thinking of it from the business impact, that there's a financial incentive to keep people out. Not just from a cultural standpoint, but from a financial standpoint.
They want to be able to charge $50,000 to license their song. That means their song has to be the biggest song. That means they're going to make 20 versions of it. They're going to have, think about this. We've never done this. Should we? Should we, the next song we put out, create 10 versions of the same song that are slightly different in some way?
Do it and see as an experiment. See what happens.
Because look, so here's what happens when we released Together Again. We put it through what's called the direct-to-customer music company. There's a bunch of companies that say, we create your band page, you can upload your music, people can buy it straight through here. We say, okay, we'll do that. They changed the rules mid last year to stop counting them, and they did it quietly. I mean, how are we supposed to know? Now it's iTunes and Amazon only. So I forgot kind of where I was going, but that's, so what ends up happening is we put the song out. We don't know this. We get completely shut out. They don't tell us exactly what to do or how to do it. We have no idea. They keep changing it so that only those who are in the labels and know the industry are able to adapt to it properly.
That's wild.
The Nicki Minaj song was legitimately just one of the worst things I've heard.
Yeah.
Almost
That's
every
so
single
bad.
one.
That's
but
what
it's
should
so
be
bad.
insulting. Like they don't
Yeah.
have to put out anything that's good. They just have to be. They just have to say we want this song out.
Here's what I was going to say. When we put it out on the direct-to-customer website, it's 69 cents for the song, but you can choose to pay more. Tons of people were giving us $5. I'm like, okay, I appreciate it. How about we just release 5 versions of the song so one person can be 5 sales now? Yeah. I will tell you this right now. If we multiplied our sales by 5 and did it through iTunes, we would be Billboard Hot 100 #1.
Yeah.
We'd be #1. I think this is the play. I think if Megan Thee Stallion or Nicki Minaj did this, all these different versions, I think that's what we got to do.
Yeah, man.
Because then I can say to everybody, it's like, hey man, you gave me $10 for this one song. I really appreciate the support. Just buy it 10 times. $6.90, and one person is a whole album sale now. A whole album. We would easily get 100 to 200,000 sales if we I mean, I got to be honest. If we did 10 versions, we'd get 300,000 sales. We would be Billboard Hot 100 #1.
Yeah, that'd be rad.
Let's do it.
It's just wild that you have to do that. Like you can't just put out a song that is good that people like. Instead, you have to game the system so
That's
they'll
what
let
they're
you
doing.
in. I know it's just sad that that's like because they'll represent this as this is the most popular song in the country. It's everywhere. It's whatever, but that's not true.
Think of the authors who would buy their own books in quantity so they could have the New York Times bestseller,
Which
put
is
on
editorial
the jacket.
anyways,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Like,
They've all rigged their own systems.
But
It had to be James Comey. Nobody read his book.
But this is the thing. It just bothers me so much that when they look at, the average consumer, they're like, this is the nation's top songs. And that's why it's special to be on this list. When actually we've conned and manipulated it as much as we can. Like you couldn't even use this data to accurately report on a song's growth because it's artificially inflated. That's crazy.
It's all rigged. It's all fake.
Yeah.
But I've never really
payola.
followed the Billboard Top 100, I will say.
Yeah, it's just modern payola. If anyone knows like what it used to be, it's just payola.
Illegal.
Just
Payola's illegal.
It's illegal, yeah, and it just hasn't hit the new streaming market yet, or hasn't been
I don't know
applied
if
to
it can.
streaming. I don't think it can either, but that's pretty much what's going on. That's why they know how to do this.
The most important thing here is, again, I'm not. When I want to talk about this, it's not because here's a song they're rapping, they should be #1. This is how the narrative machine of these woke
how it works.
corporate press outlets manipulate you into thinking these are the best books, these are the best songs. They are culturally engineering you to support things that are detrimental to this country and support communist BS.
We've watched that. Like we watched it with the show Reacher, which got like no play from the press, not in the same way because they don't see any cultural influence from it because the demographic is not the. It's the straight white guys, the dads that are the ones watching it. So there's no ground to be made up on that show.
Yeah,
but they push everything else like Rings of Power because they can make ground there.
We're going to go to Super Chats. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and head over to timcast.com. Click Join Us. Become a member. $10 a month, and you get access to the uncensored members-only show. We'll be live on the front page of timcast.com at about 10 p.m. You don't want to miss it. And if you've been a member for at least 6 months, or you sign up for $25 a month, you can submit questions and call in to talk to us and our guest live on the show. So definitely, we could use your support. This show is made possible thanks in part to viewers like you. Here we go. I'm not your buddy guy. He's back. He says, crazy people really know how to screw up legitimate issues. Tim's right about violence. Please see BLM and Summer of Love for case study. Finally, I hope people appreciate your Sales 101 course earlier. Yeah, I was talking to Benny Johnson earlier because he's got this tweet where he said that Taylor Swift is a government psyop. So I made a video, it's 40 minutes long, breaking down I'm just gonna say this. There are Republican politicians who are freaking out that there are people like Jack Posobiec, Benny Johnson, and others pushing this narrative that Taylor Swift is a psyop because it is massive downside. It is a massive net negative. And so I don't want to speak about people's private statements on this one, but I think it is the biggest mistake the right is making right now.
Yep.
There's no upside, none. And I just want you to imagine what happens. FanDuel, I believe it's FanDuel. You Google search this. You can bet on whether or not Travis Kelce will propose to Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl. It's a bet. It's available. I think they're giving it like plus 100. It's like minus 250. They think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Imagine what happens if Travis Kelce gets down on one knee, and as he's pulling the ring out, a guy in a MAGA hat, some fat guy in a white t-shirt, shoves him and says, she's a psyop, don't believe her, it's a trick, it's all scripted. It would be every Swiftie rallying and screaming. It would be in the press for a week or 2 weeks. I'm not saying it's really going to happen. I'm just saying, what's the alternative that could happen? If someone came out and screamed at the high heavens, it's a psyop. It recruits nobody.
Nope.
But anyway.
Not just that, but also like there's all the articles that were going around today about Trump versus Taylor Swift, the holy war. I'm like, this is a battle you're going to lose.
And
you will not
it's
win
not
this.
real. It's not.
But I'm saying, but it's a losing issue. First of all, like Trump needs to make up ground on female voters anyways. True. And they're talking about it. They're saying like, is she going to endorse Biden? I'm like, who cares? She did it in 2020. She's a Democrat.
Also,
there's a poll.
It's so irrelevant. Like the thing is, if everyone stopped talking about it, then she would just go on to date Travis Kelce. Maybe they're going to get Super Bowl. Maybe they won't. And she's not even in the country during the DNC's national convention.
And I don't care.
It's just irrelevant.
And I don't care that the press is talking about it. And I don't care that she's at the Super Bowl. My concern is that Jack and Benny, who are friends of mine, are pushing this narrative, which is massively detrimental to the right for no reason.
Well, nobody wins.
I'll ask you a few questions. Are Swifties going to vote for Donald Trump?
Nope.
Some will. Some will. Like there's we've had someone on the show recently.
There is a contingent of conservative women that do like Taylor Swift, but in large, if we're talking in general, no, they're not.
Are Trump supporters going to switch from Donald Trump to Joe Biden because Taylor Swift told them to?
No.
Absolutely not. Are moderates going to base who they vote for, Taylor Swift or Donald Trump, based on whether, Joe Biden or Donald Trump, based on what Taylor Swift says in her endorsement?
No.
Maybe, maybe not. Probably not. Let's assume the answer is no. What's the upside to making enemies? You're not convincing Trump supporters. You earn no votes. Yep. So there's a net zero on that regard. What if the answer is yes? Will you convince someone to vote for Donald Trump by screaming at Taylor Swift as a government psyop? Or will you convince them to vote for Trump by saying Trump is going to secure the borders, bring back improve the economy, and oh, by the way, we also love Taylor Swift.
Bring back the right-wing Taylor Swift edits. That's what we need.
We
need to embrace Taylor Swift. There's nothing wrong with that.
Especially if she's on the brink of getting married to an American football player after dating all kinds of British guys for way too long. I'm sorry. I already said it.
Here we go.
Pro-natalist movement.
David Guyton says, Tim is assuming he is right, and Benny, etc. are wrong, though. I'm not assuming it. Shout out to Benny Johnson. I'm a big fan of his work. He does great work. We're friends, but I got to call him out for this. He said on Twitter to 6-7 million people, it is confirmed that Taylor Swift is a government psyop. There are several things that are wrong with his post. One, Taylor Swift did not register 35,000 people to vote. Those numbers are manipulated. Axios ran that headline, but if you actually read the article, they say the 35,000 number was a 23% increase from the previous year, meaning it's actually 8,107. If we could actually correlate those numbers to Taylor Swift, we can't. They go to mention that they play this amazing game where they're like, it was a 1,226% increase the hour after Taylor Swift made the post. And we were getting 12,000 people every half an hour. So you mean to tell me that after Taylor Swift made a post to 272 million people, 24,000 people showed up to your website in an hour? And that was your massive increase? There's a poll that says 1/5 of voters would be swayed by Taylor Swift and she can swing the election. That same poll, that headline is a lie. The same article written by every publication says the exact inverse would happen. If she endorsed Joe Biden, 18% would vote for him and 17% would vote against him, giving her poll 1%. Benny Johnson also mentioned that she came out as a liberal in 2020. That was 2018. He also mentioned George Soros bought her music. Soros invested with Carlyle Group so that Scooter Braun's Ithaca Holdings could buy her music in 2019, which she then said, I'm going to re-record everything. And they ditched the investment a year later. There's so much to this. But guys, that's the point. Anyway, we're going to move on. listen, I'm going to put it this way. I've got Republican politicians and staffers freaking out over this, saying, why are they sabotaging our suburban vote? I don't understand. And I'm like, me neither. I really don't get it. There's nothing to be gained from saying this over and over again, doing interviews about it.
But also, there's money to be made by talking about it right now. Unfortunately, there's like people who make media, like there's a financial incentive to talk about it because her name is high search engine optimization. You're going to get clicks
And
while
it's
talking
right
about
after
it.
the whole thing where she was
Exactly.
on the field
Like,
and whatever else.
It's not just about the election; it's about making money too.
Yeah, we'll just move on from this because I can't believe it, man. Whatever. The Emperor's Champion says, Texas has my full support. Governor Abbott may have saved the republic with his actions. Texas stands. Yeah, but what about Arizona and New Mexico and California? They're just going to move everything over there, so we'll see.
When the cartels are stepping back and they're trying to figure out how to reorganize these massive groups that usually do go through Eagle Pass too. So it's not like they're done. It's still going to happen. They're just going to push them up into a different sector and do the exact same thing they've been doing in Eagle Pass.
Jacob Hawley says, did you see the news drop for Fulton County DA Fannie Willis? Insane. It's on Benny Johnson's YouTube. Absolutely effing clown world. Which one was this one? Was it about the divorce or what happened?
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I wasn't following it today.
Not sure.
All right. Insert name here says, here's a white pill for everyone. CA's unconstitutional ammo background check scheme was ruled unconstitutional by Judge Benitez, who immediately denied the requested stay by Gruesome Newsom's Igor Rob Banta.
Gruesome Newsom.
I think you're trying to insult him, but a little too much there. Let's see. J3T says, will Griftcast mention MAGA guy decapitating dad?
I covered it for SCNR News. You guys should,
we mentioned
you guys
yesterday.
should check
There's
it
not a
out.
lot to talk about. Crazy guy commits murder, gets arrested, calls for violence. Crazy.
Declares himself president.
Declares himself the Messiah. He called himself the Messiah and
important.
president. And it's
He
like,
requested the Postal Service shut
Suspend
themselves down
operations.
or
Yeah.
else he would attack. Like he was totally wild. And the thing is, like, it is a flashy story. He was arrested alive. So you'll hear more about this. Just because we're not talking about it constantly right now doesn't mean it goes away.
So he wants to get rid of the Postal Service, but not the Fed?
He says
No.
it's not state governments. He just wants to. He's anti all of the federal government, and he wouldn't compare himself to Jesus Christ, but he's saying that's why you've never heard of him. So
all right. Matt H says, Tim, the women's show should be pro-natalist. I think you would really get a show going that was focused on helping new moms. I like that. I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Should be called Broadcast.
That's a really good idea.
But Broad insinuates that they're dumb.
No.
So
We're gonna
Broad-cast.
take that word back.
Reclaim it.
it's like we need to reclaim
The only
Subarus
problem
as
is
well.
it's spelled the exact same way.
is that why it's not offensive? Like it works out.
If we hyphenate it, the broadcast, that's funny. Yeah, but the idea is to have like post-liberal, libertarian, and conservative-leaning moms. And I actually don't care if there's Democrats. You know what I mean? Like you'll have that perspective.
Megan
But I
McCain
gotta be
appears on The
honest.
View. You getcha.
You bring a Democrat. You if we took one Democrat woman and sat her next to like 4 women who have like regulars on Timcast IRL, within like 3 weeks she'd be conservative.
Dude, I'd be scared her brain would like explode or something.
She would just be like, everything I thought was wrong.
Yeah. That'd be
I've learned the truth.
Cool.
Let's go. What do we got? We'll grab some more super chats. Michael McCord says Abbott needs to charge Biden and Mayorkas in Texas under Texas state law. Open door with Trump. They should. Where's the Texas DA to file criminal charges against Biden and Mayorkas? They're trying to argue that Trump is not immune. Okay. Criminally charge Joe Biden right now for the border crisis. Do it. You know what, man? I'm sick of this stuff. Because if I was in any kind of like ADA or AG or whatever in Texas, Ken Paxton, come on, this guy's got balls. He could do it. I'd immediately be like, let's roll, baby. Criminal charges. Send him right on up. And then I can say, what's your argument? Is Joe Biden immune or is he not immune? Because we got, under his orders, CBP facilitating cartel human smuggling. Take your pick, baby. Yeah. He's immune? Okay. We'll wait for impeachment then. Oh, that also means Trump can't be charged either. Have a nice day. All right. Let's grab some more super chats. So that happened, says Texas Military Department is actively recruiting. If you go to the border, join up and let the state deploy you where most needed. Well, that's what I'm saying. Just go through the legal channels. Abbott is doing well. I don't know if it's perfect, but from what I'm hearing from, Tayler, for instance, and others, it's way better now. Don't get in his way. Let him do his thing.
What do the kids say? Let him cook.
That's right. That's right. All right. Let's see. Heflin says, I created an AI Taylor Swift singing Sober by Tool and sent on X. Peace. Okay,
Nice.
wait. What's your Twitter handle? How do I find that? Yo, I want to play
He's
that.
making me choke. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, great work.
As long as it's not the other AI we've been seeing recently.
Do you
No, no,
remember
no.
that video of it's Donald Trump and Barron in the front seat and it's Melania
Yeah.
filming and
People were
what
reposting,
what
yeah.
Taylor Swift songs is playing? Like
That's what I'm saying. Embrace Taylor Swift.
That was like that
let
was
her
being
live her
reposted
life.
today, and since we used
I
to be a
found it.
country.
Taylor Swift Sober. I'll play it on the dude. I love Sober by Tool. It's like one of the best songs ever. We'll play it on the members only. So shout out to Hefland. Once we wrap the super chats in 10 minutes, everybody become a member at timcast.com. We're going to play an AI version. I hope it's good. I haven't heard it. Taylor Swift singing Sober by Tool. Dude, I didn't
greatest
even
of the-
realize that song is 31 years old.
Yeah.
Technically 33 because it was recorded in 91. I thought it was like mid to late 90s. I didn't realize that was that early. That song's too good to be that early.
Do Anemia next.
Yeah, dude. Tool's just absolutely amazing. Big fan. Big fan. All right, anyway, Taylor Swift singing Sober. I'm so excited for that. All right, here we go. Darth Sirius says, hey guys, joining the culture fight. Made a video with you in mind, can be found on all video platforms. Darth Sirius for Rumble, Darth.Sirius for Twitter. Is that your Twitter? And it's the first one is Sirius with a 0 instead of an O. Right on, man. Good luck. Good luck. Ologies D says, per the NG troopers, I want to see name tapes and get unit info. Go after the National Guard leadership and get his orders. That'll tell you where the push is coming from. You get info from the ground up. I want to stress this, guys. If that's potentially a group being deployed for basic training with a drill sergeant waiting outside and they are criminal aliens being facilitated by an NGO, which it looks like the U.S. is taking them and sending them to join the military. Mm-hmm. This could be a massive scandal. Don't know.
I might need a layover in Atlanta on the way.
Need some journalists on this one. Yeah, man. I think you need to team with James O'Keefe. Figure this one out.
do you have a pair of glasses you could wear?
Can James
of course.
O'Keefe go undercover as a migrant?
Oh, Josh Field says, when you brought up UPS either last night or the night before, it pissed me off when you said that UPS is laying off drivers because of our great contract. They can't fire us union members. They are firing management. No, right. I didn't say otherwise. My point is, if you have $100,000 and you have 10 employees that are each getting paid $10,000, and then those employees all say, we want a raise, and then they get a raise to $13,000, guess what? You still only have $100,000, which means in order to give some of them a raise, you have to fire others. In this instance, sure, firing management. Right. Like this is what happens. But yeah, if I wasn't clear with that, then thank you for super chatting. So we have that cleared up. The people who are under union contract are being protected. I will also add, I absolutely am opposed to unions, but I love collective bargaining. Unions have become these weird quasi corporate entities that have weird rules about them, which prevent you from actually being able to exercise your rights. It's the craziest thing ever.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've been in several unions, and hey, I'd like to get a promotion. You can't union contract. I'm like, what? What's the point of being in a union if it's holding me back? Well, it's lifting others up. Okay, well, I don't want to be a part of that union then. Well, you have no choice. The law says you can't. We are allowed to bar you from being an employee here unless you're part of the union. And then they have the right to work laws where it's like, you can't do that. Now, I agree with that. You can't force me to join a union. And then the left is like, no, everyone must join a union. Dude, I'm so sick of it. I've not had any good experiences with unions. None.
Neither I.
But that's just me. I'm not saying all unions are bad. I would just prefer collective bargaining and not these weird laws they have surrounding unions. Like, man, just not a fan. Take my money. All right. Vosh says, speaking of IDW, Brett was on You're Welcome today. Very cool. Victor Papadopoulos says, take it from an Aussie that you are giving Claire Lehman too much credit. There were plenty of journalists brave enough to call out the COVID lunacy, but she wasn't one of them. Yeah. She was not. And then her and her ilk got into it with me.
Yeah,
and I was right about everything.
Yeah, I remember like right when that article came out, we were talking about it downstairs.
Yeah, because I'm like, yo, you're rounding people up from their houses and locking them up. And they're like, but it's comfortable. And they did this propaganda thing where they had models in the like the forced internment camp.
When
I'm
they do like day in the
that.
life, like little influencers,
Little
being
vlog
like,
or
"Ah,
something."
I just get to
the,
hang out
the sandwich
on a
cart comes
porch."
by and gives you your prepackaged meal. Yo, that's
Well, it's a
crazy.
shame when journalists go down that route, especially journalists that were doing good work, because the entire point of journalism, at least what it used to be before mainstream media happened and all this dumb propaganda happened, is to challenge power.
Oh, they're gonna say earn money.
But journalists don't get paid a lot unless you're, signed
Yeah,
with
yeah.
mainstream media or you're,
Right.
pretty big in the industry. But like the whole point of journalism and actual reporting is to challenge powerful people. That's what it's all about.
Oh, they're gonna say sponsorship deals.
Yeah. We should just wear journalists. Same with like congressmen, like NASCAR jackets with all the sponsors on it.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious.
Jazzanaut says, Tim talks about Australia like the whole country is one city. Just because they poop on the streets in SF doesn't mean snap crap applies nationwide. Don't smear an entire country for what one state did. It wasn't just one state, though. May not have been all the states, but Australia was not a good actor during COVID.
Wasn't a bastion of freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did nationwide lock down their borders, and there were Australians who couldn't come back in. Do you remember that phase?
Bitorn says, my National Guard son was asked to play concierge to ID migrants in and out of NYC hotel, take complaints for 3 months in spring of 23. Op was passed to NGO. Interesting.
Wow.
Wow. Jeez, man.
Captain Titus says that's not how clearances or classified information works. He is probably fired, but he wouldn't lose his clearance. Well, the story just came out today. 35,000 retweets, like basically 10 million views. Yo, it is a huge scoop that the White House was like, we need to get rid of Kamala Harris. That's crazy. And that Michelle Obama was like, I don't want to run.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to allow this guy to continue having clearance to top secret information if that's a clearance he has, if he broke a story this large.
I agree. It may not be how it works, but I also think politically it may be however they feel it should work.
Yeah, he's going to suffer the consequences for sure.
Jake T says, you can be in the Guard and a drill sergeant. I almost did it coming off of active duty. Took the DD-214 instead. Interesting. Let's see. X Tin Man says, maybe he's a DI escorting illegals to boot camp for citizenship for service. Right. Good point. And too bad we didn't see your super chat sooner, but thanks for the super chat. And I think that may be what we're seeing. Yeah.
Terrifying. Horrible.
Dude, they're already kind of giving them citizenship, though, at this point. Like, you're just
Yeah, it's
allowed
de
in,
facto.
and then you have court dates in 2032. So, you know what I mean?
If you feel like coming.
If you
we'll think
feel like
about it.
showing up.
Man, we need to get some members of Congress on top of that.
Yeah.
We need to know what that was. And they may be trying to cover it up, because if it's true that they're bringing these criminal aliens and putting them in the armed forces, I said this as joking, like, send them all to Ukraine. There you go. You found your troops. That may be what they're doing. I mean, imagine how twisted it would be. They invite these people, come to America. The shining city on the hill awaits. You get here and they're like, get on the bus. We're sending you to Iran.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to be honest, militaristically, talk about a brilliant strategy. Convince hundreds of thousands of people, millions, to come, and then you just drop them off in your enemy country.
Well, and lots of them are former soldiers as well coming over, at least the single males. So they'll fit right in. Might not speak the language, but
But the
all
thing
they
is, they
need
don't
is a tool.
stay in Iran. They'll come back, and then they're entitled to the GI Bill.
If
So-
they come back.
If they come back. If they don't come back, okay, fair enough. But they're not loyal to your country, and ultimately they're here to gain for their own benefit.
Yep.
All right. Dries says, as a former information system security manager for the Air Force, I can say that for that position, you require a top secret SCI clearance to work White House computer security. I have to imagine they're stripping him. I mean, dude, he just blabbed to a random guy he met on the internet. He didn't even know who it was.
Yep.
And
Imagine
it
how
was
many
James
other people he's
O'Keefe.
told.
Yeah.
It's almost funnier if they're like, okay, fine, you can stay, but don't go on any more dates with James O'Keefe.
Yeah. Druid Arrow says driving is not a privilege. Thompson v. Smith, 154 SE 579, 11 American jurisprudence, constitutional law, etc., etc. The right of the citizen to travel includes automobile thereon for use in life and business. The right to travel includes automobile, but what does that mean? You're not saying that we have a right to drive a car, are you?
Well, on the driving test, it definitely says it's a privilege, not a right.
I can respect it's a right to be able to travel as you see fit, but I don't know that if I was buck naked in the middle of the woods, I'd have a right to drive around in a car. I suppose you would in that sense. Self-defense is a human right. It's a natural right. It exists. But, all right, if that's what the law states, then so be it. Let's grab some more super chats. Matt H says, how crazy would it be if Javier Milei is a U.S. psyop to get South Americans to fight in our military? Maybe. J-Doc says, I work in military recruiting. They're not joining. Not even the DACA can join. AR 601-210 does not allow it. They have to be U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents with an I-551 green card. That's a really great point, J-Doc. Also, it's illegal to cross the border in the way they are. And it's also illegal for Customs and Border Patrol agents to work hand in hand with human smugglers and NGOs to bring them and drive them to the airport. It's also illegal to have boarding passes that say no name given and have these people boarding planes without going through proper security.
There was also
so you're right, but I understand.
There was also that congressman who floated this idea, less than 6 months ago, probably less than 3 months ago, saying, hey, what if we just let them join the military and earn citizenship? So this is already a narrative that started. I don't think it's off the table. I think this is ultimately a ploy. I just don't trust this. I think it's a terrible idea, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, let's grab some more. April Louderback says, the border convoy isn't going all the way down to the border, but to Dripping Springs to show support and pray. Guy in charge is a retired lieutenant colonel. You should read more about it online at Take Our Border Back. Very cool. I really love the idea of people going down and praying and protesting peacefully and not going in any way to interfere in any capacity with the border. I'm glad to hear that's what the story actually is. Here we go. Exton Man says Kanye pushes Kelsey aside.
Yep.
I'm gonna let you finish your proposal here, but she's a psyop working for the Pentagon.
There's a lot of people saying that was the moment this country truly started to fall.
That was the split.
I think it was Harambe. Honestly, I think that's what did it.
That was a rough time.
Yeah, everything fell apart after that. All right, where are we at? Ox Loam says weird DoorDash today. It just felt sus. 2 Hispanics in very dirty clothes. One ran to door while driver was slowly creeping down the street with door open. Didn't speak English, and you don't need a driver's license to work for DoorDash.
You don't. It's crazy.
I gotta be honest, that sounds efficient.
Yeah.
One guy drives, keeps the car in aisle, you pop the door out, you run up, drop it off, run back, jump in the car, you're gone. That sounds efficient to me, dude. What do you mean?
As long as you don't eat my food or touch it, we're good.
Yeah, true.
Kneeboop says,
if you're here illegally, then that's not great.
Mark Cuban's Twitter hacked. Yeah, he was posting a bunch of weird stuff or something.
I think he's trying. So he was retweeting a bunch of stuff about, because Sam Hyde made a tweet about his Jewish name before he changed his name.
So good,
I think he was trying to retweet it to talk about the hate media policy on Twitter. But if you look at his timeline, it's like Nick Fuentes tweets, whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
I think he's just retweeting it to prove a point about how hate speech is out of control on Twitter. I think that's where it's going.
So Mark Cuban facilitates hate speech? What a hypocrite.
Hate
All right,
speech.
my friends, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Head over to timcast.com, click join us if you'd like to hear Taylor Swift sing Sober by Tool. I'm very excited for this. And it's not so family friendly, this uncensored show. But as a member, if you've been signed up for at least 6 months or you sign up at the $25 per month level, you can submit questions, call in, and actually talk to us live on the show, and we'll answer your questions. And it's going to be a whole lot of fun. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Taylor, do you want to shout anything out?
Tenet Media, make sure to follow them on YouTube. I believe it's Watch Tenet Now on all social media platforms. So that's where all my reporting ends up, and other content that I create and make. And Tim's Culture War show is now actually streamed there every Friday, I believe.
Right.
So yeah, follow that, and then Taylor USA on Twitter. That's where you can find me.
It's been fun having you here. I'm Hannah Claire Brimla. I'm a writer for scnr.com. That's Scanner News. You can follow all of our work on Twitter and Instagram at Timcast News. Follow it immediately, please. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Twitter at HCBrimlow, and I'm on Instagram at hannahclaire.b. Brett, so nice to see you.
Perfect, and thank you. Guys, if you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram and Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. But go ahead and check out Pop Culture Crisis. We are live Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're about to hit 98,000 subscribers, so we are going to hit the 100,000 mark really, really soon here, which we are very, very excited about. It's going to be a lot of fun, so check us out there Monday through Friday at 3 p.m.
Popculturecrisis.com.
Yep.
Right?
Yes. We
Culture-
learned that last time that I did not know that. We had a website.
Everyone go to popculturecrisis.com, check out the show. If you like it, hit that subscribe button.
And we were banned off TikTok, so
That's crazy.
Congratulations.
we always anger the feminists. They're
Don't
always
support the
mad.
Chinese government.
Yes.
And Serge.
Serge.
Yeah, that's a mark of pride.
Yes.
I would be proud of that. I'm Serge.com. I enjoyed today's show. Always good to see you, Taylor. Thank you for coming. Doing good work out there. And yeah, let's do the after show.
We'll see you all over at timcast.com. Thanks for hanging out.